Xiaobai swished her tail and walked up to Yunshu, her whole face a picture of pleading flattery. Yunshu clasped her hands behind her back, her expression stiff. She didn't reach out to pet her the way she always did. Xiaobai had lived with her for years. She knew instantly Yunshu was angry. The mare circled her slowly, tail never stopping, soft snorts aimed her way. She was nothing like the little terror from a minute ago. Yunshu's resolve crumbled. After all, Xiaobai was her only family in that world, and now she'd followed her here, going through who knew what kind of pain along the way. She softened. It's about who gets a bath first. You really got that worked up? Keep acting up and see what happens, she warned. Boundaries were necessary, a little muscle never hurt. Xiaobai snorted twice, then stopped pacing, though she still looked put out. Arrange it. Give Xiaobai her own private bath. Fu Huaishan's voice came from behind. Yes, sir, the butler said, already planning Miss Xiaobai's new wash. The man's cold tone suddenly sounded like music to Xiaobai's ears. She left Yunshu's side without a second thought, trotted over to Fu Huaishan, and gave him a friendly snort. Her owner's husband was terrifying, but his wallet was stacked. She'd picked a good one. At the Fu residence. Fu Xingyao walked in just as Zhu Qiming and Shen Wanzhong returned from shopping. The butler had taken him to get his cuts cleaned up before dropping him off, but the bruise at the corner of his mouth was impossible to miss. Oh my God, honey, what happened to you? Zhu Qiming shrieked. Shen Wanzhong hurried over. Fu Xingyao didn't want to be anywhere near Shen Wanzhong. He brushed it off. Nothing. Got hit during a game at school. Why weren't you more careful? What if your handsome face gets scarred? Zhu Qiming's face twisted with worry. Shen Wanzhong studied the wound, suspicious. That looks like someone punched you. What? Someone hit you? Who? Zhu Qiming's voice shot up. Shen Wanzhong played the protective uncle. Tell me who did it. Fu Xingyao wasn't buying any of it. Tell you. And who exactly are you? Zhu Qiming immediately snapped at him. What is wrong with you? This is your uncle. How can you talk that way? Fu Xingyao shot Shen Wanzhong a look of pure contempt. Uncle? You two know exactly what you really are. He was young, but he wasn't stupid. The way they acted around each other was nothing like relatives. It disgusted him. If Zhu Qiming weren't his own mother, he'd have kicked them both out of the Fu house himself. My father will come back, he shouted, then stormed off to his room. He left behind a fuming Shen Wanzhong and a frantic Zhu Qiming scrambling to smooth things over. Don't be mad. He's just a kid. And it won't be long now, right? She cooed at Shen Wenzhong. It took him a while to swallow his anger. He couldn't wait for that moment to come. At Imperial Garden, an autumn night breeze drifted through the estate, rustling the flowers into their own private rhythms. Yunshu had just stepped out of the bath when her phone rang. Jun Master, a big order just came in. Think we can handle it? His voice buzzed with excitement. Their first real deal since the website launched. If they pulled it off, it would be a stellar start. Hold on. Yunshu didn't hang up. She logged into the site on her phone and started reviewing the details. After scanning everything, she confirmed, we can do it. But remember to scrub the traces. With this kind of info arbitrage work, nothing can be left behind. Li Jun listened closely. Got it, Master. I won't forget. Good. We'll talk later. The second she hung up, a tall, burning hot body wrapped around her from behind. She turned in his arms, concern flickering in her eyes. Are you running a fever? Fu Huaishan shook his head. No, then why are you so hot? Thinking about you made me hot. Yun Shu blinked at him. Xiao Bai interrupted us this afternoon. I've been burning for you ever since. His voice dropped, rough and low when he said burning for you. He bit the words right off. His deep black eyes blazed, fixed on hers. Heat surged through her under his gaze, climbing from her feet straight to her heart. Then his restless palm slid quietly under her clothes. Everywhere his hand traveled, he left a scorching trail. Like he meant to set her skin on fire. That afternoon in the study, he'd almost gotten his fill of his sweet wife, only for Xiao Bai to ruin it. The interruption had only made his desire burn hotter. Right now, he was nothing but a starving beast. Yun Shu caught the weight behind his words, and a deep blush spread across her cheeks like ripe cherries. She saw the spark already roaring in his dark eyes, and her own heart pounded faster. Her fair little hands reached up and wrapped around his neck. A gentle tug, and he bent his head toward her until their noses touched, their breaths tangling hot and close. She gave him a slow, sweet smile. Then she rose on her toes and pressed her lips to his without hesitation. The kiss was deep and searing, as if trying to fuse their souls together. After a long, endless moment, her body softened, melting into his arms. He pulled her closer, and Yun Shu let her eyes fall shut, letting him guide her into a world of heat and hunger and nothing but them. At 1 a.m, the drowsy security guard stared blankly at the luxury car that had just slipped through the gate. Windsor Academy was a commuter college. No dorms. Nobody stayed on campus after classes ended. He'd been about to doze off when the discipline director called, telling him to let the car in and not to worry about whatever the person did. What the hell was someone doing at the school at this hour? The guard really couldn't figure it out. Shanishwan stepped out of the car and walked toward the familiar multimedia classroom. The room was pitch black. Only the campus streetlights filtered through the windows, casting just enough pale light to outline the empty space. His vision was blurred, but his memory was razor sharp. He walked straight to the 5th row from the back, 7th seat, and sat down. This was where he and Mu Yun first met. Back then, he'd been sitting right here, smoking off his frustration, when she accidentally stumbled in. She thought he hadn't noticed her. She hid 2 rows behind him, glancing at her watch, then sneaking looks at him. He knew she was there. He just chose to ignore it, so they stayed in the darkness, each lost in their own head. No words, no interaction. Just the weight of another person in the room. Time seemed to thicken around them. He didn't know how long it lasted. His eyelids grew heavy. Eventually, too exhausted to fight it, he drifted off. When he jolted awake, the classroom was still dark. The figure behind him was gone. A few days later, he ran into Mu Yun again in the same room. This time, she'd gotten there first. The moment she saw him, pure terror flickered across her face. Maybe he looked too intimidating. Maybe his reputation really was that bad. All he did was ask her name, and she was already trembling, but she stammered it out anyway. On a whim, he ordered her to come to the multimedia classroom every day after school. She didn't dare disobey. She showed up without fail. A few times, when his temper slipped its leash, he physically hurt her. He would watch her dark, wide eyes fill with fear of him. He regretted it. The day before he left the country, he told her to wait for him in the classroom again. He wrote a letter of apology by hand and placed it inside a small envelope. The plan was for her to take it when she left and read it later. But she'd been too scared and forgot it entirely. The memories rose one by one, and every wrong turn he'd made cut into him like a blade. Blood dripped silent. Only the ache spreading deep inside. Shanishwan leaned back in that same seat, gripping the envelope tightly. Light from outside spilled through the window, breaking his silhouette into fragments, half solid, half ghost. A long silence. Then a raw, strangled voice echoed through the empty classroom. Mu Yoon. I'm sorry. I love you. Outside, the autumn wind stirred the trees. Golden leaves twisted through the air like butterflies, like his scattered thoughts, drifting freely but finding nowhere to land. Saturday morning. Sunlight flooded a cloudless sky. Mu Yoon rose early. She pulled on her red riding gear, brought Snow White out from the stable, and started her workout. The air at the estate was crisp and clean. The grass stretched out like an emerald sea. She and the horse charged across the wide field. Snow White's coat was pure white, not a single dark hair anywhere. It shimmered silver under the sun. She ran like lightning, her hooves landing soft on the grass, every stride packed with power. Mu Yoon held the reins tight, riding with her horse, feeling the wind tear past her ears. After a while, Snow White slowed. She was spent. Mu Yoon dismounted and watched the horse collapse onto the grass. Sides heaving, she walked over and stroked Snow White's neck. Good girl. Then she dropped down beside her, letting her boots brush the horse's belly while she scratched her coat. Snow White half closed her eyes, soaking up the attention. In that quiet moment, they both basked in the simple joy of being together. Eventually, Mu Yoon led Snow White back to the stable and gave instructions for the post-exercise care. Then she headed to the main house. Fu Xingyao had left for a business trip to Europe yesterday. He wouldn't be back until tomorrow after breakfast. She went to the study. She just logged onto the top website when the phone next to her rang. Fu Xingzi. The second she picked up, he was shouting, "Sis, come home now. Dad's in trouble." At the Su family home, every servant was scrambling, hauling things out. All of it goes. I don't want a single piece left. Xu Zongyuan stood on the stairs, barking orders like he owned the place. 2 workers set a desk down in its designated spot and slipped away. 1 whispered to the other, "Why is the madam's cousin throwing out the master's things?" The second one checked over his shoulder before answering under his breath, "Are you stupid? Cousin, you still haven't figured it out, that's her lover." "What?" the first worker yelped, the second clapped a hand over his mouth. "Shut it. If he hears you, we're both out of a job." Okay, I'll keep it down. But if he's her lover, how does he have the nerve to walk in here and toss the master's stuff? The sharper worker rolled his eyes. "I told you, you're stupid. How long has the master been gone?" "About 2 weeks, I'd say." "Exactly. You want my opinion? The master's either divorced or dead. Why else wouldn't he come home?" The first worker sucked in a breath. "Oh my God, listen to me when we go back in, act like you don't know a thing, got it? We're just hired help. Doesn't matter who's in charge, as long as the paycheck clears, remember that." But the first worker's head was still spinning, his mind racing through every dark possibility. They stepped out from their hiding spot just as a furniture delivery truck pulled up in front of the house. Workers unloaded brand new pieces and hauled them upstairs, into the study. Into the bedroom. Shu Zongyuan watched his expensive, carefully chosen furniture finally cross the threshold. For the first time in days, his foul mood began to lift. When Yun Shu heard the commotion, she stepped out of the bedroom. She was dressed to the nines, head to toe red, like she was celebrating some grand occasion. "Oh, it's finally here, the one you've been dying for, right?" Ju Chimeng beamed as she walked over to Shangfu Muse. Shangfu Muse pulled her straight into his arms. Ju Chimeng glanced at the maids bustling downstairs, a flush creeping up her face. "Hey, everyone's watching. What are you doing?" "So what if they are?" Shangfu Muse wasn't fazed at all. "Starting today, I want all of them to see from now on. The name on this house is Shangfu, ha ha ha." His laughter echoed through the living room, arrogant and triumphant, but before the sound faded, an ice-cold voice cut through from the doorway. "Is that so? Let me see how you plan to pull that off." Yun Shu walked into the living room with measured calm. She wore a pink and white tracksuit, Li Jun and a squad of black-suited bodyguards flanking her. Power radiated from her. The center of the room, Li Jun pulled out a chair. Yun Shu sat, legs spread wide, commanding the space like a queen. Her face was frosty. Her gaze swept the hall, and every person it touched felt a chill. The temperature seemed to plummet. The workers froze, then scrambled to the sides, terrified into silence. The moment Ju Chimeng saw Yun Shu, her face went pale. She practically flew out of Shangfu Mu's arms, as if zapped by a live wire. "What's this bitch doing here? Did she find out? No way that I covered my tracks." Ju Chimeng couldn't figure out why Yun Shu would show up at such a critical moment. Shangfu Muse showed no fear at all. He swaggered down the stairs, a smug grin plastered on his face. Well, if it isn't Yun Shu, perfect timing. I was about to have my wife call you. This property belongs to the Shangfu family now. It has nothing to do with you Yuns anymore." Yun Shu didn't bother to reply. She simply lifted her eyes, and in that instant, Li Jun shot forward like an arrow. His fist, loaded with power, swung through the air and slammed into Shangfu Mu's face. A dull thud echoed. Shangfu Mu's body flew backward as if hit by a sledgehammer, crashing onto the stairs. Blood burst from his mouth and nose, splattering the floor. He lay in a crumpled heap, groaning, completely dazed. "Want to die? How dare you speak to the eldest daughter with such disrespect?" Li Jun's voice was ice. He stood firm, radiating a bone-chilling aura. The blow had Shangfu Muse seeing stars, his mind reeling. Ju Chimeng reacted faster. She rushed down and helped him to his feet. She'd caught the bodyguard's words. He'd called Yun Shu the eldest daughter. Could this little bitch really be engaged to Fu Xingyao? Never mind that now, she steadied herself. The priority was getting rid of Yun Shu today. Once today was over, she wouldn't fear whoever showed up tomorrow. No matter how tough Yun Shu seemed, she was still just a young girl. Ju Chimeng refused to believe she couldn't outmaneuver her. She'd been a fox playing this game for years. She put on a sympathetic face. "Yun Shu, this is really a matter between me and your father. We've run our course. We can't stay married. I gave him my all these years. so he gave me this house and the company. She pretended to be heartbroken, as if she truly grieved the end of her relationship with Shen Wanzhong. I know you're suspicious, but everything's been notarized. I can bring you the documents tomorrow, okay? Yun Shu remained utterly calm. She regarded Zhu Qiming with leisure, a faint smile ghosting the corners of her lips. Tomorrow? Her voice was cold, emotionless. Zhu Qiming nodded. Yes, tomorrow. A spark of excitement flickered in her. Maybe Yun Shu had bought it, but then Yun Shu laughed. Ha ha ha. Zhu Qiming, you've outdone yourself in shamelessness yet again. Zhu Qiming's face flushed with fury. Instinctively, she wanted to jab a finger at Yun Shu and curse her out, but the memory of the last beating kicked in. She swallowed the urge. Child, would I lie to you about something this big? If you don't believe me, call your father. She said it with confidence, certain of the preparations on that end. You know, your father has been grooming Nianqing as his successor since he was little, so giving us the company isn't strange at all. Yun Shu leaned back in her chair, staring at Zhu Qiming's face, a face she now found utterly ridiculous. Zhu Qiming, you know I'm not one to waste words. I'm here to settle accounts today, not to listen to your made-up stories. She saw right through the stalling. No need to waste another breath. Zhu Qiming's face crumpled, sweat beading on her forehead. Shangfu Muse, your so-called cousin and lover of 20 years. You bought 2 villas and 3 apartments in your hometown for a total of 24 million. You've taken 29 million from the company and handed it straight to him. You helped him win orders and set up fake contracts, pocketing 56 million. Are those numbers accurate? Yun Shu's cold voice cut through the air. She was done wasting time. Boom. Zhu Qiming felt her heart plummet and shatter on the floor. How does this little bitch know all that? She'd paid a fortune to hire experts to bury those financial tricks deep in the company's business. Not even the tax authorities could find it. How could she possibly know, and know it that clearly? Yun Shu, where did you hear that? Zhu Qiming's voice rose with feigned hurt. What villa? What shady contracts? None of it is true. Your father can vouch for me. She pressed a hand to her chest. I may not be your biological mother, but you can't go around making up lies like this. Lies? You don't get to decide that. Yun Shu took the thick stack of papers Ji Hongxian handed her and flung them straight into Zhu Qiming's face, the sharp sting of paper hitting skin. Take a good look. Recognize any of this? Zhu Qiming scrambled to pick up a few sheets, printed in black and white, records of the hacker she'd hired to tamper with Fu Xingyao's computer. You really went all out, Yun Shu said, her cold eyes full of contempt. Too bad you hired a cheap amateur. He left evidence everywhere and didn't even realize it, idiot. 2 bodyguards dragged in a man covered in blood, his face unrecognizable, and dumped him at Zhu Qiming's feet. She shrieked and stumbled backward. The man looked up at her like she was his last lifeline, reaching out with a bloody hand. Zhu Qiming, save me, you told me to do all those things. He'd fled to a hole in New Zealand, and Yun Shu still found him. His hands were ruined. He'd never work again. You're lying. Zhu Qiming backed away, trembling. This has nothing to do with me. Don't drag me into this. The man's face twisted. I'm lying. You bitch. I never wanted to do it. You seduced me over and over, paid me off. I only agreed because of you. Now you're pretending you had nothing to do with it. Fine, if you're going to screw me over, don't blame me for returning the favor. He turned his head toward Yoon Shu. Miss Yoon, the videos are in the lining of my mattress. There's also a recording of her telling me to rig Mr. Fu's computer, live audio. You bastard. Ju Chimeng screamed. Before she could get another word out, Shen Wanzhong grabbed her by the hair from behind. The pain tore a sharp cry from her. Well, Ju Chimeng, Shen Wanzhong growled. Paying him wasn't enough. You had to throw yourself at him too? That's not all, Yoon Shu added, her tone icy. The VP of Huaidar Electronics, Luo Juncheng, the one currently in custody, had a very close relationship with her. In fact, the reason he claimed he went back to his hometown was because Luo Juncheng's wife caught them in bed and beat him black and blue. That was all it took. Shen Wanzhong snapped. He grabbed Ju Chimeng by the head and slammed it against the stair pillar. You slut. 20 years he'd loved her. Even after she married Fu Xingyao, he waited. And the whole time, she was nothing but a whore. Beat her, beat the bitch, the hacker on the floor cheered. Still bleeding out. If he could stand, he would have joined in. Wanzhong, let me explain. Ju Chimeng's words slurred, stars swimming in her vision. Explain my ass. Shen Wanzhong yanked her up and started slapping her face with his thick palm. Smack, smack, smack. Wanzhong, I'm sorry. The beating went on for 10 minutes. Yoon Shu sat back, lazily picking at her nails, watching the show. Finally, she waved a hand. The bodyguards shoved Shen Wanzhong aside and hauled out the hacker, who'd already passed out from blood loss. Ju Chimeng felt like she was teetering on the edge of death. She had no strength left to curse Yoon Shu. Only her eyes could shoot poison. All right, appetizers over, time for the main course. Yoon Shu stood up, hands clasped behind her back. One at a time. Nobody's getting out of here today. She looked at the two figures across from her and smiled a bloodthirsty smile. Her signal. Ji Hongxian walked into the living room carrying an incense stick as thick as a man's wrist. The tip was already lit, acrid smoke twisting upward. Shen Wanzhong's gut clenched at the sight of it. Before he could figure out what was coming, two bodyguards stepped forward and pinned him down with ease. What are you doing? He struggled, panic bleeding into his voice. 15 years ago, you came to stay at the Fu house as Ju Chimeng's cousin. You asked me to bring you water. A few drops spilled, and you stubbed out your cigarette on my arm. Yoon Shu's eyes turned to ice. Remember that? Shen Wanzhong had long since forgotten, but now that she mentioned it, a vague memory surfaced. He'd only done it because he disliked Yoon Shu on Fu Xingyao's behalf. But this little brat had held on to the memory all these years. No, it was an accident. I didn't mean to. He scrambled for an excuse. But Yoon Shu cut him off. Too late for that now. Ji Hongxian, both hands. Ji Hongxian stepped forward without a word. The incense tip glowed faint against the light, like a flame straight out of hell. Shen Wanzhong watched him approach, his body shaking uncontrollably. He tried to struggle, but they'd already tied him to the chair. Completely helpless, Ji Hongxian stopped in front of him, no pity in his eyes. He raised the incense slowly and aimed the glowing tip at Shen Wanzhong's left arm. Skin covered in a tattoo of flowers sizzle. The sound of burning flesh. Shen Wanzhong's hand jerked violently, his face contorted in agony. The bodyguards had gagged him, so only a low, muffled whimper escaped. Ji Hongshuan's hand was steadied. He pressed the incense into the flesh, branding scar after scar, unhurried. Each mark sank deep, like the stamp of a demon. 15 scars. One after another. Shen Wanzhong's left hand was a ruined mess, the tattoo buried under bleeding, twisted wounds. Then Ji Hongshan moved the incense tip to his right hand. The same process played out again. The sickening sizzle filled the air as Ji Hongshuan's right hand met the same fate. Sweat beaded on his forehead, dripping down his face and mixing with his tears until it was impossible to tell which was which. From the sidelines, Zhu Qimeng watched, her face bone-white. Her entire body shook with pure, primal terror. She scrambled backward into a corner, desperate to put distance between herself and whatever Li Jun was holding. Yun Shu stood still, her expression perfectly serene. Back then, you burned me 3 times. Today, you'll feel it 30. I believe in being fair. I won't cheat you out of the interest you've racked up over the years. The original owner had been 5 years old when that animal pressed 3 cigarettes into her skin with his own hands. She had cried for hours, drowning in pain. Then the blisters formed and got infected, over and over again. The burns left a palm-sized scar on her arm. The scars on this body had long since healed. But she'd made herself a promise. She took this body, and she would take revenge in full. The bodyguard released the hand clamped over Ji Hongshuan's mouth. He had no strength left to scream. Anyway, he'd already slipped into unconsciousness. When Yun Shu's gaze shifted toward her, Zhu Qimeng forced herself upright. She gathered every scrap of nerve she had left and spoke with frantic certainty. Yun Shu, don't you dare act so cocky. I have your father. Lay a hand on me, and you'll never see him again. She had to play her trump card now. If she didn't, she was next. She'd tormented Yun Shu for too many years. If Yun Shu was planning to settle every single score, Zhu Qimeng knew she wouldn't live to see the morning. This was her only play. See Fu Huaishan. Yun Shu wasn't exactly eager to see him herself. But he was the original owner's father. As worthless as the man was, he still held weight in her heart. Zhu Qimeng caught Yun Shu's silence and assumed the threat had landed. A flicker of relief crossed her face. But only a flicker, because in the very next second, Li Jun hit speakerphone. A familiar voice spilled out, Madam. Fu Huaishan's been taken. We've been caught too. The voice of her most trusted man, her last remaining asset. Oh. And are you still waiting to hear back from the notaries? Yun Shu asked, as though the thought had just occurred to her. Forgot to mention it. Every notary office in the capital is shut down today. That little fantasy of yours isn't happening. The woman hadn't just kidnapped Fu Huaishan. She'd been simultaneously filing for company transfers and changes to the legal representative, trying to lock everything in as a done deal while dealing with Yun Shu on the other end. What a schemer! No wonder Fu Huaishan hadn't noticed a thing for 20 years. No wonder Ji Hongshan had been so blindly devoted. Zhu Qimeng had nothing left. One miscalculation after another. Her only leverage gone. Years of plotting, destroyed by Yun Shu. At this point, she had no choice but to fight. A wild, unhinged look flashed in Zhu Qimeng's eyes. She snatched up a hammer one of the movers had left in the corner. Yun Shu, if I'm going down, you're coming with me, she shrieked, raising the hammer and charging directly at her. Yun Shu didn't flinch. She lunged forward, Meeting Zhu Qiming head-on just before they collided, murder flashed across Yunshu's face. She kicked out hard, landing a brutal blow square in Zhu Qiming's stomach. The force sent Zhu Qiming stumbling backward until she slammed into the stairs. The hammer hit the floor with a deafening clatter, but Zhu Qiming wasn't done. Determined to drag Yunshu to hell with her, she steadied herself and charged again. "Madam, catch!" One of the bodyguards ran down from upstairs, tossing a leather belt. Yunshu's reflexes were lightning quick. She snatched the belt midair and gripped it tight. The belt came alive in her hands, slicing through the air like a thunderbolt, striking Zhu Qiming as she closed the distance. A sharp crack split the room. Zhu Qiming flew backward like a snapped kite and crashed hard onto the floor in a pathetic heap. Yunshu stood motionless, looking down at Zhu Qiming without a trace of emotion. The contempt in her eyes bordered on pure arrogance. "Zhu Qiming, do you remember this?" She slowly lifted the belt, a cold smile curling at the corner of her mouth. The belt had been brand new once, but Zhu Qiming, this vicious woman, had turned it into a tool for punishing the original owner over the smallest of offenses, until the leather was worn and frayed through endless days and nights. She had beaten the girl black and blue, split her skin open again and again, forcing her to grit her teeth and endure in silence. She had already said it. Nobody was leaving here today without paying their debt. Now, Zhu Qiming would learn exactly what that belt felt like. Yunshu stepped forward, her cold smile deepened. The belt began to fall in a steady, unforgiving rhythm. No matter how Zhu Qiming twisted or dodged, she couldn't escape. Every strike landed with precision, the sharp sound slicing through the room. "Yunshu, if you've got the guts, just kill me." Zhu Qiming's voice shattered into broken shards. "Back then, I really should have strangled you." Her body jerked with every lash, but she didn't beg. She kept shouting, defiant to the end. Nearby, Ji Hongxian regained consciousness. He watched the scene unfold, his heart aching. After all, he had once loved this woman. The belt kept falling, tearing into Zhu Qiming's flesh. Her screams grew weaker. Ji Hongxian's heart twisted painfully. He forced the words out. "Yun Shu, if you want revenge, take it out on me." But Yunshu didn't stop. The final blow came down with everything she had. A loud crack echoed through the room as the pure cowhide belt snapped clean in two. Zhu Qiming's floral dress hung in shreds, exposing the raw, lacerated flesh beneath. Coming back to herself, Yunshu glanced at Ji Hongxian and nearly laughed. "Take it out on you?" She sneered. "Guess a cousin really does stick with his cousin." Ji Hongxian stared at her, eyes wide with confusion. "Did you know your precious cousin already sold you out?" Yunshu's words cut like a blade. Ji Hongxian flinched. He stared at her, desperate for the truth. "You're worried about her now. Give it a few days. You'll be worrying about yourself. Yang Zhu took out a mountain of high-interest loans on the black market in your name. The money's already been moved offshore, and based on what I've seen, the repayment deadline is almost here." The ache in Ji Hongxian's chest hit harder than any beating ever had. He turned his head toward Yang Zhu, who was already unconscious. Rage boiled up, and when he opened his mouth, fresh blood spilled down his chin. Pause. At the hospital. Fu Xingyao stood rigid outside the emergency room, praying under his breath, begging for Fu Huaishan to pull through. He didn't even notice Yun Shu until she spoke. "How is he?" The second he saw her, his eyes swam. "Sis. The doctor said it's bad. They told us to prepare for the worst." She glanced at the operating room's closed doors, then back at him. "Stop the tears. Now. If a single one falls, I will beat you until you can't stand. It's my fault. If I'd just been paying attention, I would have realized something was wrong at home. Dad wouldn't have." That morning, Fu Xingyao had gone to Yang Zhu's room to ask for his allowance. When he got close to the door, he overheard her arguing with Ji Hongxian. Curiosity got the better of him. He stayed and listened. They talked about tying Fu Huaishan up, claiming he was on a business trip, drugging him. They were arguing over whether to kill him today or wait until tomorrow. Fu Huaishan had always favored sons over daughters. He'd treated Fu Xingyao well ever since he was a child. Fu Xingyao loved him the most, so the moment he understood, he called Yun Shu. He still wasn't strong enough to take on Yang Zhu and Ji Hongxian alone, but it was already too late. When the doctor said to prepare for the worst, Fu Xingyao nearly collapsed. "You know about your mother?" Yun Shu's face stayed unreadable. He nodded, his skin almost gray. "I know the password to the house security system." Which meant he'd seen everything that happened inside the Fu house tonight, clear as day. He stepped closer, his voice steady but raw. "Sis. I want to get a DNA test." Yun Shu understood. She looked into his eyes, saw the fierce determination there, and nodded. "Take him, and bring Ju Chimeng too." "Yes, Fu Xingyao followed the bodyguard a few steps, then stopped. He turned back and shouted, "Yun Shu, I'm sorry. I was wrong before. You don't have to forgive me when I get back. Hit me, scream at me, do whatever you want." For a split second, the chubby little brother from the original owner's memories, the one who used to smile at her, seemed to stand right there. Pause. Fu Huaishan was in surgery for nearly 8 hours before they wheeled him out. During the 2 weeks he'd been missing, Yang Zhu and Ji Hongxian had held him captive, forcing him to sign documents and contracts with threats and drugs. But he had refused until the very end. That's why the doctor had warned them to prepare for the worst. Yun Shu looked at Fu Huaishan's emaciated body, and a cold weight settled deep in her chest. Fu Xingyao couldn't hold back any longer. He broke down, sobbing this time. Yun Shu didn't reprimand him. The poison had already seeped into Fu Huaishan's organs, triggering multiple system failures. Death was coming fast. When the doctor told Yun Shu, she stood frozen, letting the words sink in. Outside the hospital room, the silence pressed down like a weight. Yun Shu stood at the window, her gaze fixed on the figure in the bed. She wanted to say something, but nothing came. Fu Huaishan lay there, his face drained of color. A ventilator forced air into his lungs. Tubes and wires covered his fragile body. In the corner, Fu Xingyao crouched on the floor, his face buried in his knees. His shoulders shook as tears streamed down without stopping. The bodyguard approached with a folder. "Madam, the results are in." Yun Shu took the folder and flipped straight to the final page. After scanning the results, she walked over to Fu Xingyao. "Look up." Her cool voice snapped him to attention. He lifted his head immediately. "Call me by my full name again, and I'll knock your teeth out." She dropped the report into his hands and headed downstairs. Confused, Fu Xingyao picked up the report. He stared at it for a long moment, then shot to his feet. "Sis," he called toward her disappearing figure at the corner, but Yun Shu didn't answer. Fu Xingyao gripped the report, reading it again and again. It was true. He was his father's son. He was Yun Shu's brother. Pause. In the hospital parking lot, a black Mercedes van sat tucked to one side. Inside, Zhu Qimeng's shouts rang out, demanding to be released. No matter how loud she screamed, the bodyguards outside ignored her. When Yun Shu and the bodyguard approached, the guards pulled open the doors. Zhu Qimeng's eyes went wide. "You Yun Shu? You had me dragged here and let them take my blood. What the hell do you think you're doing?" She'd been in her hotel room, daydreaming about marrying into the Shu family and becoming their young mistress, when someone grabbed her, hauled her to the hospital, drew blood, and refused to let her leave. She'd racked her brain trying to figure out who was behind it. Now, seeing Yun Shu, she had her answer. "Zhu Qimeng, you really have perfected that Dodder flower act, haven't you?" Yun Shu's tone was lazy, her gaze drifting down to Zhu Qimeng's stomach. Zhu Qimeng's hands flew to her belly. I'm warning you, this baby belongs to the Shu family. If you so much as touch me or my child, the Shu family will make you pay." She was bluffing. The Shu family meant nothing in Fu Yanqing's world. Her phone was gone. She couldn't call the police or reach Xu Zheyu. This was all she had left. Yun Shu looked at her like she was insane. "I kept you here waiting for the results. They're in, so now you can get lost." She raised a hand, and the bodyguards hauled Zhu Qimeng out of the van, tossing a few sheets of paper at her. Confused, Zhu Qimeng looked at the papers, then at the Rolls-Royce already pulling away with Yun Shu inside. What was this supposed to mean? Only after the convoy disappeared did Zhu Qimeng finally look at the report in her hands. 1 minute later. Her fingers dug into the paper. Her face went white, her eyes burned red. She screamed toward the exit, her voice tearing apart. "No. Yun Shu, you liar, this report is fake. You're just jealous of me. I'll never be fooled by you." Yun Shu was finishing dinner at the Fu residence when the bodyguard stepped inside. "Mrs. Fu, the hospital is all arranged. 4 professional nurses on rotating shifts. Your brother didn't want to go home, so I had a restroom prepared for him. The money Liu Ting transferred has been recovered and deposited back into the Shun Corporation account. She's in prison now. I've made sure certain people will take excellent care of her. And the debt collectors located Ma Liu." Yun Shu nodded. "Got it, thanks for handling all that." Only one loose end remained in the Shun family, Zhu Qimeng, but that was fine. That drama queen would dig her own grave soon enough. Yun Shu just had to wait. It was the middle of the night. Yun Shu was deep asleep when a tall, lean figure slipped into the bedroom. The man didn't turn on the light. He moved by memory to the bedside, stripped off his clothes, and pulled his sleeping wife into his arms. The whole day's exhaustion melted away the instant he held her. Sensing something different, Yun Shu blinked, her drowsy eyes open. Weren't you supposed to be back tomorrow? Missed you, wanted to get home sooner." His voice was rough with fatigue, but underneath it hummed the quiet satisfaction of seeing her again. He'd planned to return tomorrow, But the head of the Fu household had no intention of sleeping alone, so he'd ordered the private jet to fly back overnight. He'd heard his wife had been busy today too, running between the Shen family and the hospital, not wanting to disturb her rest. Fu Huaishan pressed a kiss to her forehead and patted her back. "Go back to sleep, wife." Still half asleep, Yunshu drifted off again. Morning came. The first rays of sunlight filtered through the custom curtains, draping the entire bedroom in a soft golden glow. Yunshu stirred, her eyes still heavy as she looked at the man holding her tightly. His face was sharply defined in the morning light, angular jaw, sharp brows, eyes like stars, straight nose, thin lips pressed together. He was breathtaking. God, it felt good knowing this gorgeous man was hers. She lifted her head and leaned in to kiss him. But just as her lips were about to brush his, the seemingly sleeping man opened his eyes without warning, deep black irises, still hazy with early morning drowsiness, yet somehow even more magnetic. His voice was slightly husky, lazy with sleep. "Morning, wife." Yunshu quickly pulled back. "Did I wake you?" He'd probably gotten home around 4 in the morning. That meant barely 3 hours of sleep. She could see the faint shadows under his eyes. The corner of his mouth lifted in a faint smile. He shook his head. "No, I've been awake for a while." "Liar. You were sound asleep 2 seconds ago," she insisted. His smile widened without warning. He propped himself up, shifted his weight, and pressed over her. Suddenly, the distance between them vanished. She could feel every breath he took. He lowered his hips, the motion unmistakably suggestive, and Yunshu's cheeks flushed scarlet. His gaze turned dangerously intense, locking onto her eyes. "Wife, do you believe me now? I really was awake." Flustered, she pressed her hands against his chest. "If you're awake, then get up." And the rest of her words disappeared as his mouth claimed hers. Soon, the temperature in the bedroom rose. The sounds of their passion mingled with the morning light, making the sunrise feel even more brilliant outside. The bodyguard had already saddled Xiao Bai, but they'd been waiting for Yunshu for a long time. Even Xiao Bai was getting impatient, stomping his hooves hard against the ground. "Come on, Xiao Bai. Mrs. Fu doesn't have time for a ride today. I'll take you out instead." He'd just spotted the maintenance crew working on the private jet, which meant Mr. Fu was back. Xiao Bai glanced at the bodyguard, then lifted his head toward the stable entrance. Reluctantly, he followed the man outside to the Shu residence. Xu Zongyuan had staggered home at dawn after a night out and was dead asleep, but someone kept hammering on his door, making rest impossible. He yanked the door open and saw his mother standing there, annoyed. He growled, "Mom, what do you want? I just crashed." "Crash? Who's the girl at the front door looking for you? You'd better explain yourself right now. If your father wakes up and sees her, you're done for." Yang Zhu stormed into the room, hollering, "What girl?" Xu Zongyuan's brain was still foggy. "She says her name is Ju Chimeng, claims you're not answering your calls, so she showed up here to find you." Ju Chimeng, a jolt of adrenaline shot through him. He scrambled into his clothes and rushed out. In the living room, Ju Chimeng sat dressed in an innocent, girlish outfit, studying the Shu family's decor. No wonder they were an academic family. Every piece of furniture radiated culture and refinement. She touched her belly, imagining her child growing up in this very house. A smug smile spread across her face. Even if she wasn't Shen Wanzhong's real daughter, even if she wasn't the second Miss Shen, she could still live well. She'd be the respected young mistress of the Shu family. Zhu Qimeng, what the hell are you doing at my house? A low growl from behind shattered her fantasy. She jumped up fast. Shu Zongyuan stood there in loungewear, his face twisted with irritation. Behind him stood his mother. Zongyuan, I haven't been able to reach you for days, Zhu Qimeng said, forcing a shy smile. I thought we couldn't wait any longer, so I came to find you here. Didn't I tell you to wait for my message? What's with showing up like this? What can't wait? Yang Zhu cut in, her voice sharp. Shu Zongyuan panicked. He grabbed Zhu Qimeng's arm, trying to haul her out. It's nothing, Mom, she and I have some personal stuff. We'll deal with it ourselves. He shot Zhu Qimeng warning looks, but she refused to budge, planting her feet. Not caring that she was pregnant, he yanked harder. Just as Yang Zhu was about to press further, a servant entered. Madam, your guests have arrived. It was the weekend. Yang Zhu had invited her friends over for a small gathering, and now, all the guests had arrived. Fine. Take everyone out to the garden first. Yang Zhu finished with the servants and turned to face them, her expression openly irritated. Zheyu, my guests are already here. I don't care what's going on between you and her. She flicked a dismissive glance at Su Nianru. Whatever this is, settle it now. I don't want my friends disturbed. She strode out of the living room without waiting for a reply. Shu Zheyu knew exactly how much his parents cared about appearances. With guests in the house today, if Su Nianru caused a scene, his life wouldn't be worth living afterward. He lowered his voice, almost pleading as he looked at her. Nianru, be good. You saw my mom has friends over. Let's talk about this another time, okay? Just leave for now. But Su Nianru had come today fully intending to stay. Su Xingyue had already told the servants not to let her in, so she couldn't even get back into the Su residence. Hotels weren't a long-term solution. Her only play was to move into the Shu house before word got out that she wasn't really Su Mingyuan's daughter. Tears welled up in her eyes, her face twisted with pain, making her look utterly pitiful. She grabbed Shu Zhiyu's hand and whispered, Zhiyu, it's been 3 months and my belly is starting to show. You told me to wait. But the baby can't wait. Shu Zheyu seriously regretted not going to her last night. He'd never planned on keeping this child. He already had the pills from a friend. If he'd just given them to her yesterday, she wouldn't be standing here right now. But no, he'd been too busy having fun, figured he'd deal with it later. And now she'd shown up in person. Shit. He had to get her out of here first, then get her the pills later. He put on a concerned expression and softened his voice. Baby, I know you've been through a lot. I want to marry you as soon as possible too, but today really isn't the time. You know my parents are both in education. There are outsiders here. If they find out I got you pregnant, they'll kill me. I'm begging you, at least for the baby's baby. What baby? A roar from the staircase cut him off mid-sentence. Both of them jumped. Shu Zongyuan was coming down the stairs, glasses perched on his nose, radiating the full authority of a lifelong educator. Shu Zheyu, say that again. He glared at his son. Damn it. Shu Zhiyu's heart dropped straight through the floor. He cleared his throat. Trying to play it cool, Dad, you misheard. We weren't talking about any baby. He shot Su Nianru a sharp look, signaling her to keep her mouth shut. But Su Nyanru looked at Shu Zongyuan as if he were her savior. She'd done her homework. In the Shu family, Shu Zongyuan had the final say. Once he decided something, it didn't change, and he was obsessed with saving face. If word got out that Shu Zheyu had knocked her up and abandoned her, it would drive him insane. Shu Zongyuan clearly wasn't buying his son's act. He turned to Su Nyanru, suspicion sharp in his eyes. Young lady, what family are you from? Su Nyanru smiled politely. Hello, uncle. I'm Su Mingyuan's daughter. From Su Corporation. I'm your son's girlfriend. Shu Zheyu hadn't expected her to drop it all out there so plainly. He grabbed her jacket sleeve in a panic. Shu Zongyuan nodded and sat down on the sofa. Watching his son's nervous expression, he pressed further. How long have you two been dating? Why the sudden visit today? Shu Zheyu was spiraling now. He stepped in front of Su Nyanru, blocking her. Dad, don't grill her like that. She'll get shy. The moment the words left his mouth, Su Nyanru burst into loud, messy sobs. The sound filled the whole living room. It was over. Completely over. Shu Zheyu knew that her crying meant he was finished. By midday, Shi Heng had caught up on sleep after traveling on business with Fu Yangcheng. He got up, freshened up, and headed to the main building to report in. But the second he walked in, Leng Yang materialized out of nowhere and blocked his path. Young master and his wife are still resting. Shi Heng checked his watch. Bro, it's noon. Is still not up? Leng Yang nodded. Not just Fu Yangcheng, the usually disciplined Su Xingyue hadn't come downstairs either. TSK, getting married makes people lazy, huh? Shi Heng muttered in disbelief. Leng Yang gave him a cool glance and walked away without a word. Upstairs in the master bedroom, the two people Shi Heng was calling lazy had just finished their last round. Su Xingyue had always thought she had great stamina, until she got together with Fu Yangcheng. Now she knew there was someone far, far better than her. They'd come back at 4 in the morning, slept only 3 hours, then spent the whole morning exercising. Her whole body was still burning, limbs tangled. With his having a husband with this kind of endurance was seriously exhausting. Wife, do you want to eat upstairs or go down? Su Xingyue shot him a look. If she hadn't been keeping up her regular workouts, he would have completely wrecked her by now. He caught her expression and knew he'd pushed too hard. He put on a sheepish smile and leaned in close. Don't look at me like that. Every time you do, I want to. She was done. She gave him a thumbs up. You win. She grabbed a large towel, wrapped it around herself, and headed for the bathroom. We'll eat downstairs. Okay. Fu Yangcheng got up and walked toward the other bathroom in the suite. By the time they'd cleaned up and made their way downstairs, it was already 1 in the afternoon. The kitchen was staffed around the clock, so no special orders were needed. The moment they appeared, servants laid out a delicious spread on the dining table. Su Xingyue always had a good appetite. After a workout, it was even stronger. All she wanted was to bury herself in the food. They just finished eating when Shi Heng walked in. Young master. Madam. Fu Yangcheng nodded slightly. Young master, the item has arrived. Hearing that, Fu Yangcheng's mood visibly lifted. He took Su Xingyue's hand. Yua, come see your CA at my car. Su Xingyue stared at him, confused. When had she ever asked for a car? Fu Yangcheng nodded. Yes, your car. Yun Shu stopped at the main entrance and her eyes locked onto the matte black luxury CA. It sat there silent, a predator waiting. The kind of power that doesn't need to announce itself. The driver handed her the keys, but she didn't get in. Instead she walked a slow circle around the vehicle. Fingertips brushing the bodywork and the glass. One look was enough to know this car had been heavily customized. The lines were clean and aggressive, every curve with a purpose. A titanium alloy impact resistant kit caught the light with a cold metallic gleam. Extra safety, extra attitude. Tiny diamond-cut sapphires set into the wheel hubs scattered prisms every time she shifted her angle, and the windows shimmered with a strange blue-purple tint. Not factory glass. Military grade, armor-piercing resistant material, bulletproof. The highest level of protection available. A car like this was already expensive. With these modifications, the value was astronomical. Yunshu knew cars. She caught every detail, every upgrade. You like it? Fu Huaishan's voice came from behind her, dark eyes smiling. Yeah. It's incredible. The customization was exactly her taste. The corner of his mouth lifted. He reached past her and opened the door. Take it for a spin? She grinned. Let's go. The leather seats adjusted automatically to the perfect angle. A holographic display flickered to life on the center console, projecting a floating navigation map into the air. Her fingers traced the delicate carbon fiber grain on the steering wheel, and then she spotted a silver button beside the dashboard. Fu Huaishan stood by the door and followed her gaze. He leaned down to the window and said softly, "Press it." She did. A quiet click, and the roof transformed. The entire top became a panoramic starscape, deep blue light rippling across the bulletproof glass. It can switch to this starry sky mode or convert into a solid blast-proof steel panel in 3 seconds. The trunk also holds an emergency medical kit and a micro-defense system. Fu Huaishan sounded like a proud tour guide now. Yunshu started the engine. A low, guttural roar shook the air. She looked up at him, her smile blooming. Fu Huaishan. I love this car. He smiled back, soft and indulgent. Gently he reached in and brushed a stray strand of hair from her forehead. If it makes you happy, its value is already infinite. The driver stepped forward with a respectful bow. Madam, all roads around the estate are sealed. You may test drive now. Yunshu's eyes sparkled. She turned to the man beside her with a sly grin. Husband, you got the guts to ride with me? Fu Huaishan's smile deepened. It would be my honor to accompany my wife on a test drive. He walked to the passenger side and slid in with effortless grace. A deep, powerful roar, and the luxury car shot forward like an arrow. The driver jumped back, startled by the launch. His eyes went wide as the car shrank into the distance. He muttered to the bodyguard beside him, "Did the madam just floor it from a dead stop?" The bodyguard gave a silent nod. The driver swallowed. Damn. First time I've ever seen someone test drive by flooring it from a standstill. 2 hours later, the engine rumbled back into the estate. After the car stopped, Fu Huaishan got out and opened the door for Yunshu himself. She stepped out and flashed him a wicked grin. Fu Huaishan, I don't have a driver's license. The driver nearly fainted. No license. She'd taken that car out with no license and floored it. Was this what people meant when they said skill outweighed fear? Fu Huaishan didn't look surprised at all. He'd been in the car. He'd watched every move she made, the silky turns, the blind spot reversing, the precise hill parking. None of it challenged her. She was in her element, Get the madam a license, he ordered. The driver snapped to attention. Yes, sir. When the boss spoke, even doubts had to wait. Monday morning. Yunshu drove her new car to school. The license had been processed the night before. She headed for the student parking lot, but before she could pull in, the security guard came running. Miss Su, wait. She stopped and rolled down the window. What's going on? Your car. You can park inside. Your spot is right next to the principal's. The guard was short of breath. Oh, thanks. She steered toward the spot and parked. A matte black luxury car. Even a light tap on the gas made the engine growl hard enough to stop people in their tracks. By the time she parked and got out, curious eyes were already fixed on her. Master, your ride is insane. Li Jun had followed the engine sound all the way over. He'd assumed some rich brat was showing off again. Then he realized it was his own master. His eyes practically glued themselves to the hood. He ran a hand over it, grinning shamelessly. Master, can I borrow this? Yunshu didn't even hesitate. She held out the keys. Li Jun's hand froze. He pulled back with an awkward laugh. Maybe later, after I practice more. She pocketed the keys, rolled her eyes, and turned toward the teaching building. Li Jun scrambled to catch up. They walked, talking about things on the website. He was in the middle of an animated story when Yunshu stopped dead. What's wrong, master? He watched her take a step backward, her gaze fixed on the small garden beside the building. A few seconds later, she headed that way. Li Jun followed. In the garden, Shangfu Muse, whom they hadn't seen in ages, was hiding under a tree, muttering to herself. Li Jun spotted her first. Hey, don't you have a match today? Why are you hiding out here? Mu Yun's face flushed when she saw Su Xingyue and Jiao Feng. Oh, it's you guys. I'm fine, seriously just bored, watching ants move their colony. She grabbed a little stick off the ground and poked around, but after a solid minute of searching, she couldn't find a single ant in this spot, let alone a whole colony on the move. Su Xingyue and Jiao Feng just watched her scramble for excuses. Finally giving up, Mu Yun tossed the stick aside, defeated. Don't worry about me. Go back to class. Just tell us what's going on. What are you really doing out here? Jiao Feng never held back. Mu Yun looked from Su Xingyue to Jiao Feng, her voice thick with sadness. I can't compete. Even though it means everything to me, the moment I step on stage, I freeze. I can't play. Aren't you practicing every day? Su Xingyue spoke up. Mu Yun nodded. Yeah, but every time I think about competing on stage, I start shaking. I can't play at all. Are you sick? Jiao Feng pressed. No, stage fright? Su Xingyue caught on immediately. Mu Yun shook her head, then nodded, leaving both of them confused. I don't know. I can practice fine, but performing, I can't. Jiao Feng wanted to help, but he'd never touched an instrument in his life. What could he even do? The garden fell silent. Stand up, look at me. Su Xingyue's voice was cool but firm. Startled, Mu Yun obeyed, rising to her feet and meeting Su Xingyue's gaze for a moment. Their eyes locked. Mu Yun, how many years have you been playing? Since I was 4. This is my 17th year. How many competitions have you entered? Su Xingyue pressed. I've lost count. Over 100, big and small. Were you scared your first time on stage? No, I was too young to know better. Gao Feng watched their back and forth with curiosity but stayed silent. Good. Su Xingyue paused, then suddenly raised her right hand in a fist. Gao Feng braced for a punch, but her fist just hung in the space between them. Slowly, she opened her palm. Mu Yun stared at the pale skin. You're not scared right now, either, understand? Because I've already taken your fear. With that, Su Xingyue snapped her fingers shut into a tight fist. Mu Yun repeated the words, almost in a whisper, I'm not scared, the fear is gone. As she said it, Su Xingyue patted her shoulder. The dullness in Mu Yun's eyes vanished, replaced by a bright spark. Oh no, I'm going to be late for the competition, she cried, suddenly panicked as she looked at Su Xingyue and Gao Feng. What do I do? How much time? Su Xingyue pulled out her phone. 30 minutes. But it's at the central auditorium. I'll never make it. I've prepared so long. Mu Yun's voice cracked as Su Xingyue grabbed her arm and ran toward the parking lot. Come on. I'm driving. Will we make it? Yes, trust me. Mu Yun didn't argue. If Su Xingyue said they'd make it, she believed her. They reached the parking lot. Su Xingyue slid into the driver's seat and told the two in back, buckle up. The Aston Martin shot forward before the words left her mouth. To dodge rush hour traffic, Su Xingyue took the ring road. The car flew down the highway like a streak of lightning, faster. The speedometer needle blew past 200 km/h. Mu Yun handled it, but Gao Feng was certain he was about to die. He gripped the seatbelt for dear life, feet jammed against the floor, eyes squeezed shut as Su Xingyue sliced through traffic, barely lifting off the gas. Thank God the car was built for this, or it would never survive her driving. Screech, a brutal stop as Su Xingyue checked the time. We're here. 10 minutes to spare. Mu Yun scrambled out, called a hurried goodbye, and sprinted into the auditorium. A loud retch made Su Xingyue glance back. Gao Feng had already shoved the door open and was crouched by the flower bed. Throwing up, she frowned. You okay? She handed him a tissue. He didn't even lift his head. Fine, master, I'm fine, God. He threw up when she fought, and now he threw up when she drove. Unbelievable. It took him forever to recover. Breakfast was a complete waste. Inside, the competition had already started. The faint melody drifted out. Master, did you hypnotize Mu Yun back there? Gao Feng remembered her strange move in the garden. Su Xingyue leaned against the car hood, watching clouds drift across the sky. You could call it that. Psychological suggestion is more accurate. Mu Yun had real talent, but Su Xingyue had put pressure on her at her grandfather's banquet. That pressure had never released, slowly turning into what she described: able to practice, but unable to compete. Master, you're amazing. Gao Feng was in awe. Hacking, fighting, psychological tricks, and driving skills that rivaled a pro racer. How could one person learn so much? He couldn't help but look at her with hope. Master, when you have time, can you teach me some psych? A blaring siren cut him off. They both turned. 2 police cars, lights flashing, screeched to a stop behind them. 4 uniformed officers stepped out. Were you driving this Aston Martin? One officer approached Su Xingyue, showing his badge as Su Xingyue nodded. That's me. Then I need you to come with us. The officer's tone was serious. You were driving at extreme speeds, endangering public safety. You'll need to come to the station for an investigation. Please cooperate. Gao Feng jumped in, his voice urgent. Officer, we were just trying to get a classmate to a competition. We were in a rush. I didn't realize I was speeding. It won't happen again, I swear. He threw on his most pitiful expression, hoping for a break. The officer didn't budge. Son, we're doing our jobs, save it for the station. But enough, Gao Feng. Mu Yun cut him off. I'll go with them. You wait here for Yun Shu. She left her phone in the car. I broke the rules. I'll take the consequences. Gao Feng's voice shook. I'll wait for Yun Shu, then I'll find you. Mu Yun nodded and followed the officer into the police car. Gao Feng stared after the car, panic clawing at his chest. He wanted to call Fu Huaishan, but when he scrolled through his contacts, the number wasn't there. His mind raced. What do I do? What do I do? Are they gonna mess with her? I've heard that place is terrifying. Then it hit him. Des Yunyenqing, he'll have the number. He dialed, thankful they'd swapped numbers last time. Voicemail again and again. His chest squeezed tight just as he was pacing. Frantic circles. Yun Shu walked out. She took one look at him. Hey, what's wrong? Lose your wallet or something? Lose my wallet. They took her. My teacher got taken. Gao Feng blurted. Yun Shu's fists clenched. Who took her? I'll knock their heads in. Gao Feng's explanations spilled out in a rush. Meanwhile, Mu Yun followed the officers into the station. Shanixuan was just walking out. The instant he spotted her, his brain clicked. He rushed outside and made a call. Cousin, I was wrapping up a case and I saw Mu Yun get brought in. A pause. Yeah, the 3rd Bureau in Yunyang District. Inside the interrogation room, Mu Yun sat in the center chair. The officer who brought her in didn't start any questioning, just told her to sit tight and disappeared. The door opened again and a tall officer she didn't recognize walked in. He looked her up and down. School uniform. Luxury car. Speeding. His mood brightened. Ahem. Let's start your statement, he said. What should have been a simple speeding ticket turned into a circling interrogation. He kept trying to trap her into admitting something more. Mu Yun, aside from speeding, what other laws did you break? None. You sure? Positive. I'd advise you to come clean before I dig it up. The penalty will be much worse. Go ahead and dig. Mu Yun stayed perfectly calm, not a flicker of panic. That got under his skin. He slammed his palm on the table. Don't be ungrateful, Missy. He glared, trying to intimidate her, but no matter how long he stared, he couldn't find a trace of fear in her eyes. So he switched tactics. His face softened. You were seriously speeding and you're not cooperating. That means a fine, points on your license, plus detention. Mu Yun said nothing. He leaned in, dropping his voice. But, if you're willing to pay a little extra, I can make that detention go away, understand? So he was one of those. Mu Yun's expression shifted. She played along, looking innocent. Really, if I pay more, I don't have to stay here? Of course. He thought she'd taken the bait. Okay. I'll give you my family's number. Call them. We've got money. He'll pay whatever you ask. The officer's smile widened. Naive schoolgirl. Easy cash. He pulled out his phone. Yun recited the digits. When the call connected, she handed it over. Hello, is this Brother Huaishan? It's Mu Yun. The man on the other end recognized her voice instantly. He had no idea what game she was playing, but he went along. Yeah, it's me. So, I got a speeding ticket, and I'm at the station. I need to pay a fine. Bring enough cash so I can get out fast. The address is... She hung up. The officer cheerfully poured her a glass of water. Your family will be here soon, right? Very soon. Don't worry. Mu Yun smiled, and something dangerous flickered behind her eyes. A Fu Corporation. Fu Huaishan ended the call and walked straight out of the meeting, leaving every executive baffled. That's the second time this week. What's going on with him? One manager muttered. A female manager leaned in. Maybe he's in love. Have you seen his face lately? Not nearly as terrifying. Right. I used to be scared to even meet his eyes. Now, not so much. 10 minutes later, a string of black luxury sedans pulled up outside the police station. Xiao Bai parked right in front of the entrance. Fu Huaishan stepped out, his face carved from ice, his entire presence freezing the air. Oh, Mr. Fu, what brings you here? Director Luo had scurried downstairs the instant he got word. Fu Huaishan's lips barely moved. My wife got a speeding ticket. I'm here to pay the fine. Wife? Who the hell had arrested Fu Huaishan's wife, and since when was he married? Director Luo's thoughts scattered in every direction. Xiao Bai opened a briefcase packed with euros. The director's stomach dropped. Director Luo. Is this enough? If not, I can get more. That briefcase of money didn't look like a fine. It looked like a gun aimed straight at his head. Sweat beaded on his forehead. Mr. Fu, please, don't say that. Let me look into this right away. He grabbed a passing officer. Who arrested a speeder today? The officer glanced nervously at Fu Huaishan. Yes, sir. Captain Zhu is handling the interrogation. Luo Juncheng heard who it was, and the only thought that flashed through his mind was, I'm screwed. He forced the panic down. You get the madam out here now. The officer moved, but Luo Juncheng shook his head. No, I'll go myself. Mr. Fu, right this way. The director, usually so full of himself, couldn't keep his voice steady. Fu Huaishan didn't answer. He just walked. Luo Juncheng rushed ahead to lead the way. Inside the interrogation room, Zhu Yang checked his phone, mentally tallying up how much he'd demand. Yunshu sat across from him, watching the man practically drool over an imaginary payday. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. The door swung open. Director, what are you doing here? Zhu Yang completely missed the pale, clammy sheen on Luo Juncheng's face. Luo Juncheng ignored him. He walked straight to Yunshu and bent at the waist. Madam, the young master is here to take you home. Fu Huaishan stepped into the room, his sharp gaze cutting through the space and landing on Zhu Yang, who was still too dense to figure out what was happening. Yunshu smiled, sweet and unhurried. You came, did you bring enough for the fine? Fu Huaishan's face stayed cold. He scanned her once, quick and thorough. No injuries. His voice dropped through the room like a blade of ice. I did, but they won't take it. Luo Juanqing's uniform was already soaked through with sweat. "Madam, you must be joking." "Joking, Director, she was speeding, she owes the fine, and if the amount doesn't add up, I have every right to detain her." Zhu Yang still hadn't caught on. "Shut your mouth. Point one more word and I'll lock you up myself." Luo Juanqing's roar twisted his face into something ugly. Zhu Yang had never seen him like this. A cold knot tightened in his stomach. "Director Luo, I'm taking my wife home. Where do we pay the fine?" Fu Huaishan's voice was low and even. "Mr. Fu, please." Yun Shu raised a hand. "No, I sped. I'll pay the fine. I'll accept whatever penalty I deserve." Her gaze turned icy. "But if someone tries to use my speeding ticket to shake me down—" No, madam. You have my word. I'll discipline my men personally." Luo Juncheng jumped to reassure her, words tumbling out in a rush. He felt like he was being roasted over an open flame, nowhere to turn, no way to stand still. "My wife says pay the fine, so we pay the fine." Fu Huaishan took Yun Shu's hand. It was obvious they weren't leaving until this was settled. "Then Mr. Fu, madam, if you'll follow me, I'll take you to handle the payment." Yun Shu glanced back before she walked out. Zhu Yang's face had gone chalk white. The look she gave him carried a razor-sharp warning. They paid a fine of 1,000 yuan and 3 points on her license. Luo Juncheng personally escorted them out. "Master! Master!" Two voices called out at the same time. Mu Yun and Dr. Gao stood waiting near the entrance. Shangfu mused behind them. Mu Yun rushed forward and looked Yun Shu over from head to toe. "Master, are you okay?" Yun Shu kept her voice even. "I'm fine. Did you finish your competition?" Mu Yun nodded. "First place. Without you, I wouldn't have won today, so whether you like it or not, I'm your disciple now." Her jaw set with pure stubbornness. Yun Shu had nothing to say to that. Shangfu Muse walked over and nodded politely at Fu Huaishan. "Mr. Fu, long time no see." Fu Huaishan gave a slight nod in return. Shangfu Muse turned to Yun Shu. "My little sister told me you got pulled over for speeding while taking her to the competition. I came to see if I could help. But since Mr. Fu is here, I'd say there's nothing left for me to do." Yun Shu nodded. "Thanks. I'm fine." A commotion erupted from outside. Shen Yishuan burst through the doors, stopping short when he spotted Yun Shu. "Who arrested you?" Luo Juncheng wanted the floor to swallow him whole. "Any one of these men. Fu Huaishan, Shangfu Muse, Shen Yishuan. Any single one of them could have his entire traffic team reassigned to the middle of nowhere. And today, all three had shown up. That bastard Zhu Yang. Luo Juncheng was going to skin him alive. Dr. Gao felt the pressure in the room spike and silently stepped back. "My master's fine." Before Yun Shu could answer, Mu Yun jumped in and pulled her aside. Yun Shu didn't know why Shen Yishuan was here, but the concern on his face looked real enough. "I'm fine," she said. Fu Huaishan's cold gaze locked onto Shen Yishuan. His eyes were like frozen stars. No warmth, just a crushing, impossible to ignore intensity. Shen Yishuan felt it. He met the stare without flinching. Their gazes collided like live wires, the air between them crackling. The police station went dead silent. Time stalled. Everyone in that room felt the pressure building, like a storm about to break wide open. Just as it reached the breaking point, Yunshu took Fu Huaishan's hand. "Let's go." Fu Huaishan didn't speak. He let her lead him toward the door, but at the exit, he stopped. He turned his head slowly and gave Shen Yishuan one last look. A long, weighted glance, impossible to read, but Shen Yishuan understood it perfectly. "Stop staring. They're gone." Shang Fu Mu stepped over and clapped a hand on Shen Yishuan's shoulder. Shen Yishuan cleared his throat. "Relax. Yunshu's fine. With Fu Huaishan here, what exactly could anyone do to her?" Shen Yishuan pressed his lips together and said nothing. Luo Juncheng approached with extreme caution. "Young Master Shang Fu, Miss Mu Yun, Mr. Shen, would any of you like to come upstairs for some tea?" "Tea? You arrested my master and now you're offering tea?" Mu Yun snapped. "Mu Yun manners." Shang Fu Muse reined her in. Shen Yishuan, who had stayed silent until now, spoke. "Who arrested her?" Luo Juncheng blinked. He hadn't expected that question. "Do I need to ask again?" No. Of course not." It wasn't long before Captain Zhu arrived with his team and gave the traffic police station a major renovation. Colonel Luo Juncheng sat behind his desk, brow furrowed, scanning a classified report. A sharp knock yanked his attention. "Reporting." Li Jun called from the other side of the door. Luo Juncheng waved him in. Li Jun crossed the room, set a tablet on the desk, and tapped the screen. "Sir, you need to see this." Luo Juncheng put the report aside. A sleek website filled the screen. "It just went live," Li Jun said. "The intelligence on here is staggering. I'm talking massive scope, but the detail, I've never seen anything like it. And here's the kicker, in 1 week, it's already crushed every competitor in its class. In the information age, everything, civilian life, tech, the military ran on speed and data." Luo Juncheng tracked developments in this space exactly for that reason. "Impressive." He nodded. "Can you reach them?" Li Jun's expression tightened. "I tried. They turned down any partnership offer. Point blank. I didn't disclose our identity." Luo Juncheng slid the tablet back. "Set up a meeting with whoever's running it. I'll handle it myself." "Yes, Colonel." Li Jun left without another word. Afternoon sunlight filtered into the hospital room. Shen Wanzhong finally woke from surgery. The doctors ran their tests and moved him out of the ICU into a standard room. Shen Yishuan had grown up overnight. When he saw his father's eyes open, he didn't cry. He just brought water, wrung out a washcloth, and gently cleaned his father's hands and face. Shen Wanzhong watched his son, tears soaking the pillow more than once. Yishuan told him everything that had happened. With the family, Shen Wanzhong listened, his face still, as if he'd been expecting it. "You listen to your sister now, understand?" Shen Wanzhong squeezed his son's hand. Yishuan nodded, his jaw set. "I know, father. Don't worry." Once his father was stable, Yishuan called Zhu Chimeng to update her. She gave him a few more instructions, then hung up. At that moment, Fu Huaishan strode into his office after a meeting. She'd been hanging out with him since the traffic police station, playing CEO companion while he worked. Time to go, babe, your husband's off the clock. Let's head home. Ju Chiming checked her phone. It's 3 in the afternoon. She lifted an eyebrow. You're really okay skipping out this early? The corner of his mouth twitched upward, his voice low. If I had to sit here 24 hours a day for Fu Corporation to turn a profit, then everyone in this building is dead weight. Fair enough. Ju Chiming grabbed his hand and pulled him toward the elevator. Night fell. The city lit up. After a long workday, the capital's young professionals flooded the bars to shake off the stress. The club, Shangfu Muse hadn't shown his face in a while. Tonight, he finally came back. Luo Juncheng was buried in military drills. Fu Huaishan had become the guy who forgets his friends the second a woman enters his life. So tonight, Shangfu Muse walked in alone. The club manager spotted him instantly and rushed over. Shangfu Muse slipped into a booth, ordered a bottle, and leaned back to watch the stage while he sipped. Life was good. Every few minutes, women who recognized him sent electric looks his way, hoping to catch the attention of the capital's most notorious playboy. Shangfu Muse was immune to amateur hour flirtation. He kept drinking, perfectly content. Upstairs, in a private room, a man and a woman traded hollow conversation. The air between them was tight. Han Duo felt the room closing in. She reached for her juice and drank half the glass in one go. The man beside her watched the liquid disappear, and the tension in his shoulders eased a fraction. So, Duo. He wore frameless glasses, average in every way. My parents brought up the idea that since we've been together a while, maybe we should set a date to meet each other's families. Something flickered in his eyes when he looked at her. The mention of meeting parents made Han Duo's stomach knot with resistance, but she kept her expression calm. Houchen, finals are coming up. School's been insane. Let's put that on hold for now. She and Sun Houchen had met on a dating app. Han Duo came from a family of academics, a respected teaching lineage in the capital. Sun Houchen's family owned a chain of tutoring centers. She was 27 and had never been in a relationship. Her family never let up about it. One day, Sun Houchen added her on the app and they started talking. About a month in, he asked her to be official. She said no, but her answer was soft. He took it as a yes, so she let it ride. Now, after nearly 6 months of this undefined thing, all they'd done was grab meals together. A few times he'd tried to hold her hand. She dodged every time. She felt okay about him, but not close enough for more. Still, something about him made her skin prickle. Her refusal didn't seem to faze him at all. Fine, we'll talk about it later. Here, have more juice. The club presses it fresh from fruit flown in daily. It's really good. He refilled her glass. Han Duo had expected him to be angry. He wasn't, and that made her feel a little guilty. She nodded, picked up the glass, and drank another half. Her head started to feel a little heavy, but she chalked it up to the stuffy room. Duo, stay put. I'm hitting the restroom. Sun Houchen stood and walked out. Okay. She glanced at the private bathroom inside the room. Why would he use the public one? But she didn't think much of it. Everyone had their habits. Bored and alone, she couldn't sing karaoke. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through the school group chat. Downstairs, Shangfu Muse was bored out of his mind. But going home wasn't an option. If he did, it would mean the same lecture about marriage. He decided to head upstairs. He had his own private lounge at the club, same as Fu Huaishan and the other guys. Some nights when he drank too much, he just crashed there. As he climbed the stairs, the music from the main floor faded, and the quiet of the upper hallway settled around him like a held breath. The lounge was cleaned daily. Even when Fu Huaishan's crew wasn't around, nobody else set foot inside. He took the elevator to the 3rd floor without hesitation. The doors slid open, and he stepped into the hallway, rounding the corner toward the private room. A man stood against the wall, phone pressed to his ear. Fu Huaishan barely glanced at him, kept walking, then the words hit him cold. Gave her the juice. Should kick in soon. By the time it's over, the deal's sealed. Just wait for my signal. Fu Huaishan had spent enough time in clubs and bars to know exactly what that meant. His stomach turned. That kind of scumbag move disgusted him. Sex was one thing, but it had to be mutual. Anything else wasn't a hookup. It was assault. He hated it down to his core. Still, he wasn't about to play hero and charge into a stranger's mess. Inside the private room, Ju Chiming stared at her phone screen. The group chat messages smeared into a blur. Heat rolled through her body in waves. Her vision doubled, then tripled. Her head felt like 100 pounds of dead weight. Before she could make sense of it, the phone slipped from her fingers and landed on the sofa. She reached for it, but her hand wouldn't cooperate. The screen tilted out of reach. What's happening to me? Her cheeks burned. An unnatural itch crawled beneath her skin. This was her first time at a club like this. She had no idea she'd been drugged. Her body slid boneless onto the cushions. She fought to keep her eyes open, but her lids were made of lead. Xiao Bai, her voice came out weak, barely a whisper. She tried again, forcing the words past her lips. Xiao Bai. Xiao Bai, I'm here. The phone finally chirped. Help. Call. Master, who would you like me to call from your contacts? Call. Ju Chiming couldn't hold on any longer. Her eyes shut completely outside. Sun Haochen kept checking the time on his phone. The moment hit. He crept to the small window in the door and peered inside. Through the frosted glass, he saw a figure lying motionless on the sofa. The drug had kicked in. He pushed the door open silently, slipped inside, locked it behind him, and shrugged off his jacket to cover the window. Standing over Ju Chiming's unconscious form, he let out a twisted smile. His wire-rimmed glasses caught the dim light, sharpening the predator in his expression. Ju Chiming, you've been dodging me all this time, haven't you? Well, once you're mine, let's see how high and mighty you can act. He stripped off his shirt and pants in a frantic rush, then he reached for her clothes, but she was wearing a fully buttoned cardigan, and the damn thing was a pain. The buttons were tiny, his fingers were clumsy. It took forever just to get two undone. Sensing weight on her body, Ju Chiming stirred groggily. Her vision was still a fog, but she could make out Sun Haochen looming over her. She lifted a limp hand. Haochen, help, please, help me. I feel so weird. He laughed, a greasy, eerie sound. Don't worry. I am helping you. In a minute, you'll be begging me to take you and then you'll be saved. Ha ha ha. Her mind was thick with haze. She couldn't process the wrongness in his voice, but something was off. Her skirt was sliding slowly down her legs. A jolt of clarity pierced through the fog. Buzz, her eyes flew open for the first time. She saw the man on top of her for what he truly was, terrifying. Sun Huaishan, what are you doing? She raised a hand to push him away, but the drug had drained every ounce of strength. Her shove landed like nothing. The pathetic resistance only fed his sick excitement. What am I doing? I'm fucking you once you're mine. How are you going to refuse to marry me then? A chill shot down her spine, tears spilled over. Sun Huaishan, please, don't. I'm begging you. Begging won't help women like you. My mother was right, once it's done, you can't run. He patted her flushed cheek, laughing like a man unhinged. Besides, if we get married, our families can work together. My business will have all the connections I need. Ju Chiming. This is what they call a powerhouse union. Get it? Be a good girl. I promise you'll feel real good. He stopped pretending. With one vicious yank, he tore her delicate cardigan apart. Ju Chiming bit her lip so hard she drew blood. Pain was the only thing keeping her conscious. She shoved at him with everything she had, swinging wildly. SSSSS, a long, bloody scratch ripped across Sun Huaishan's face. He yelped, clutching his cheek. You bitch, you asked for it. His face burning, he grabbed both her wrists and pinned them above her head. Then he leaned down, banged, the door exploded open. The deafening crack made Sun Huaishan jolt. He barely turned his head before a fist slammed into his face, sending him crashing to the floor. Fu Huaishan stood in the doorway, fury etched into every line of his face. Even that tacky floral shirt couldn't hide the ice radiating off him. He glanced at Ju Chiming, dazed, still flailing weakly, and grabbed a fallen jacket to cover her. Who the hell are you? I'm with my girlfriend, mind your own business. Sun Huaishan's glasses had been knocked off. Nearsighted, he could only make out a tall silhouette. Your girlfriend? Say that again, I fucking dare you. Fu Huaishan's voice boomed. The sheer authority in it made Sun Huaishan go silent. He scrambled on the floor, searching for his glasses. Fu Huaishan stepped out, took a blanket from the club manager, wrapped Ju Chiming securely, and lifted her into his arms. As he left the room, he gave a cold order: beat him. Beat him until even his own mother wouldn't recognize him. Just leave him breathing. Yes, sir. A group of burly bodyguards answered in unison. The heavy door slammed shut. A wet crack sounded behind it, and Sun Huaishan's scream was smothered by the thick walls. In Fu Huaishan's private room, the club doctor had already hooked Ju Chiming up to and for. Mr. Fu, the drug she was given is the strongest thing on the market right now. The fluids will stabilize her, but she's going to feel the effects for a while. The club kept a doctor on call specifically for situations like this. Fu Huaishan sat on the sofa in the outer room, a cigarette burning between his fingers, his eyes fixed on the bed. Ju Chiming's phone rested in his other hand. He'd barely made it back to the room when his own phone buzzed. Hey, teacher Ju. What's up? You never call me. I haven't been driving lately, so if someone rear-ended your car, that one's not on me. They'd exchanged numbers after their 2 collisions. Fu Huaishan kept talking, but the other end was dead silent. Yo, teacher Ju, if you but dialed me, I'm hanging up. He figured she'd just tapped his name by accident. Just as he was about to end the call, he heard her voice. Crying. Begging. Fu Huaishan listened hard, Piecing it together with the man he'd spotted in the hallway a few minutes earlier, his face went pale, and he bolted out of the room. He grabbed the club manager, got the guy's reservation, confirmed the room number, and kicked the door open. Inside, Sun Huaishan was about to force himself on Zhu Qimeng. Thank God he'd made it in time. Half an hour later, the 4-bag was empty. Fu Huaishan pulled the needle himself. Zhu Qimeng lay motionless on the huge black bed, her cheeks still flushed. The drug was still working through her system. Sweat glistened on her forehead, and her lower lip, where she'd bitten it, was swollen and deep red. For any normal man, this scene was pure torture. Fu Huaishan's throat went dry. His Adam's apple bobbed before he could stop it. Then Zhu Qimeng's eyes snapped open. The instant she saw a man beside the bed, she shot upright, clutching the blanket, scrambling backward into the corner. Don't come near me, please." Her voice splintered into sobs. She hadn't fully come back to herself yet. Her mind was still trapped in that moment of utter helplessness. Fu Huaishan dropped onto the edge of the bed and held up his hands. "Teacher Zhu. It's me. Look at me. I'm not that scumbag." Watching her cry rattled him. The sound of his voice, Zhu Qimeng slowly lifted her head. When her eyes found Fu Huaishan, confusion flickered through the desperation. Then the tears broke free all at once, spilling down her face. She let out a raw, shuddering sob. This was the first time anything like this had ever happened to her. She was terrified, even knowing she was safe now. What just happened had left a mark. A scar she could still feel. "Hey. Don't cry. That bastard drugged you. I got you out. You're safe now. The drug hasn't worn off yet. If you're uncomfortable, I can run you a bath. You want to soak? Or I can call the doctor back. Another round of fluids." Fu Huaishan threw out a dozen suggestions, but Zhu Qimeng didn't register a single one. She just cried harder. Shaken and humiliated, she couldn't stop the sobs tearing out of her. Just as Fu Huaishan was about to call for backup, Zhu Qimeng's crying stopped. She looked at him with red-rimmed eyes, her face raw with hurt, her breath still hitched. "Thank you, Fu Huaishan." She'd never imagined Sun Huaishan could be that kind of man, and what she never expected, the flashy guy she'd always written off as some playboy, was the one who'd saved her. When she stopped crying and actually thanked him, Fu Huaishan froze for half a beat, then recovered fast. "It's nothing. We've got that car crash bond, right?" Phut, his joke surprised a laugh out of her. But the heat spreading through her body pulled her back fast. She shifted, awkward. I'd like to soak in the tub. I'm still feeling off." "Oh yeah. I'll run the water." Fu Huaishan disappeared into the bathroom. Zhu Qimeng didn't relax until she sank into the cool water. Out in the room, Fu Huaishan lit another cigarette and dragged deep. He burned through it fast. When the silence from the bathroom stretched too long, he started worrying she might have passed out, or worse. He crossed to the door and knocked. "Teacher Zhu. You okay? Teacher Zhu?" 2 calls, nothing. He was about to force the door when her voice finally came through. "I'm fine. I just want to soak a little longer." "Oh okay. Call if you need anything. I'm right out here." "Okay, thank you." Staring at the closed bathroom door, thinking about Fu Huaishan waiting on the other side, Zhu Qimeng understood something for the first time. You really couldn't judge a book by its cover. A guy in a loud shirt wasn't necessarily a player. But Sun Huaishan, the buttoned-up gentleman, he was garbage, through and through. She soaked for an hour. When she finally came out, her hands and feet were pruned. Seeing her struggle to walk steady, Fu Huaishan reached out to help, then hesitated. He didn't want to scare her. His hand hovered in the air, commit or pull back. Zhu Chimeng caught the awkwardness and offered him a small, apologetic smile. I'm okay. I can manage. I'll call if I need you. All right. She made her way slowly back to the bed, sat for a moment, then spoke. I want to go home. Can you call my family for me? Fu Huaishan handed her phone back. You don't need to drag them out. I can drive you. It's late anyway. It was past 3 in the morning. Her parents were usually asleep by 10. Waking them now would only make them worry. Zhu Chimeng thought for a moment, then nodded. Then I'll trouble you. Thank you for everything tonight. Fu Huaishan brought her fresh clothes, then waited outside the door. When she stepped out dressed, he drove her to her front gate. Getting out of the car, Zhu Chimeng looked at him, her cheeks heating. I really want to thank you for tonight. I'm sorry for all the mean things I said before. I shouldn't have. What? The peacock thing? Fu Huaishan grinned. Bai Wolin's face crumpled with regret. I'm so sorry. Fu Huaishan waved it off, utterly unbothered. Don't worry about it. Honestly, that nickname's kind of cool. Alright, go on in. I'm heading out. Bai Wolin watched the car glide away until it vanished, her thoughts drifting. The next morning, Yunshu had barely killed the engine when Zhu Chimeng came sprinting toward her. Boss, good morning. She shoved a drink into Yunshu's hand, her face bright with eager to please excitement. Yunshu took the drink. Morning. Boss, did you eat breakfast? Yes. Boss, want some fruit to cleanse your palate? No boss. What sounds good for lunch? No idea. Then I'll pick something fabulous for you. Flatterer. The voice wasn't Yunshu's. It was Ji Hongxian, striding up behind them. Hey, Ji Hongxian, don't you have any manners? You're supposed to greet your boss and your senior colleague. Zhu Chimeng seemed born to clash with him. Not a single exchange went without a barb. Seriously, I joined the company before you. Why would I call you senior? You should be calling me senior. Zhu Chimeng planted her hands on her hips, ready for battle. I'm 6 months older than you. We're going by age. Who said we're going by age? You're not the boss. Your rules don't count. Right. Boss. Ji Hongxian spun to get Yunshu to settle it, but when he turned, she was already walking away. Forget it. I'm done with you. He took off after her. Zhu Chimeng was right on his heels. If you two can't stop arguing, stay away from me. Yunshu's voice cut cold through the air. She had zero patience for those two clowns. We won't. I'll be senior. He'll be junior. Done deal. Ji Hongxian opened his mouth to argue, but one look at Yunshu's irritated face shut him up fast. Fine. A real man doesn't argue with women. Besides, Yunshu had personally recruited him. Zhu Chimeng had basically forced her way in. If this were a corporate ladder, he'd be in the core team and she'd be a peripheral hired. No comparison. That thought made Ji Hongxian feel a whole lot better. Zhu Chimeng spoke again. Boss, Yangzhu filed a withdrawal. She's already moved into the Shu residence. But the Shu family doesn't seem too thrilled with her. Withdrawal? Probably because her belly was starting to show that if she kept coming to work, the secret would be out pretty soon. And the Shu family not liking her, that tracked a girl showing up pregnant, trying to force a marriage through a family visit. No normal person would welcome that. Especially a family like the Zus, respectable enough to care about face, but not so respectable they'd just take the hit quietly. Yun Shu stayed silent, but Ji Hongxian jumped in. How do you know all this? This circle isn't that big household staff talk. She'd picked it up from her own servants. How the servants got the info, she couldn't say. Ji Hongxian couldn't resist. Your servants are such gossips. Yours are the gossipy ones. They were at it again. Yun Shu dropped a single line, "Don't come near me today," and strode off fast. The two glared at each other, then looked away, pure disgust in their eyes. When work let out that afternoon, Yun Shu drove straight to the hospital. By the time she walked in, Shen Yishuan had just finished spooning kanji into Shen Wanzhong's mouth. "Sis, you're here." Shen Yishuan's face lit up the moment he saw her. Yun Shu nodded and crossed to the sofa. Settling in, Shen Wanzhong looked at her, and tears instantly glistened in his eyes. "Leave us." Yun Shu's order was flat, directed at Shen Yishuan. He nodded obediently and slipped out of the room. The monitoring equipment hummed softly, beeping in steady rhythm. Shen Wanzhong wanted to speak, but every time he opened his mouth, his throat seized up. "If you can't find the words, then I'll talk and you listen." Her voice was cold, just like always. This man was her father by blood, but he wasn't hers. She was only handling the Shun family's mess out of obligation to the original body she now inhabited. "I've dealt with Ma Liu and the thugs. Shen Yishuan should have filled you in." Shen Wanzhong nodded. He was satisfied with how those two had been handled. "I recovered every cent Ma Liu embezzled from Shen Corp and put it back in the company account. You can verify with Li Jun." He lifted a weak hand and waved it. "No need. I know, you wouldn't lie to me. As for Yang Zhu, she's not your daughter, so she's not my problem." A flash of shame flickered across Shen Wanzhong's face. Over 2 decades of raising a child, only to learn she wasn't his blood. The bitterness was suffocating. After a long silence, Shen Wanzhong finally spoke, his voice trembling. "Yun Shu, you're a good girl. Everything before, it was my fault that I failed you. If I'm not here anymore, take care of yourself. And your brother." Those last words seemed to drain every ounce of strength he had. He sagged back against the raised hospital bed. Yun Shu watched him without a word, then she stood and walked to the door. "Got it." Shen Wanzhong had expected her to ignore him completely, but she'd answered. Tears finally spilled over, trailing down his temples as he stared at the ceiling outside. Shen Yishuan was crouched against the hallway wall. The second he saw her come out, he scrambled upright. "Sis, you're going to work tomorrow. I've arranged for a nurse." But he was worried about their father. Yun Shu's gaze hardened. "But what? The sky hasn't fallen. You can't let your career slip. How else are you going to carry the Shen family one day?" Shen Yishuan stared at her, stunned. After a few seconds, he nodded solemnly. "Okay. I'll listen to you. Take care of yourself. Call me if anything comes up." She reached out and squeezed his shoulder. The Shu residence. Dinner was served. Yang Zhu sat alone at the dining table. She stared at the 3 dishes and 1 soup placed in front of her. Her appetite was non-existent. Back at the Shun house, even a solitary meal had meant 6 dishes and a soup. She'd managed to stay in the Shu home, but 2 days had passed, and Shu Zongyuan's parents still hadn't said a word about a wedding ceremony. Every time she pressed Fu Huaishan about it, he brushed her off. They had to wait, he said. His parents would decide, but her belly was getting bigger by the day, and she was not about to let the Shu family dictate her future alone. "Auntie, please clear the table. I'm done." Ju Chimeng called a maid over to take away her breakfast. She wandered out to the garden, watching the neighbors stroll by after their morning meals. She remembered Yang Zhu's warning not to go out alone. Then an idea clicked. The next morning, she crept out of the house before the Shu parents were even awake. She was careful. Even the early rising maid didn't notice. She went to the supermarket, picked out a few random groceries, then stopped at a breakfast shop to eat. When 9 o'clock rolled around, the peak hours for the neighborhood, she strolled back slowly. Ju Chimeng walked at a snail's pace, deliberately arching her slightly rounded belly forward, a bag of vegetables in hand. The neighbors in the complex couldn't help but stare. The Shu family lived in a stable residential area. Not many households, but they were settled, mostly people working in education. Everyone more or less knew everyone else. A strange girl showing up with a pregnant belly, that was bound to spark gossip. Ju Chimeng took the long way around the complex, covering nearly the whole loop. When she pretended to get tired, she sat down on a stone bench. It didn't take long. A middle-aged woman sidled up, acting casual. "Hey, miss, whose family are you with? I've never seen you around here before." "Oh, hello, Auntie. I'm Fu Huaishan's girlfriend. I just moved in." Ju Chimeng answered politely. "What? Young Fu already brought a girl home? Are you pregnant?" The woman leaned in, hungry for details. Ju Chimeng's heart sang. This was exactly what she wanted. "Yes, 3 months along. Auntie Shu said they'll have the wedding soon." She paused, then gasped dramatically. "Oh, it's already so late. I need to get back and make breakfast for Uncle and Auntie." "Such a good girl," the woman praised. "Bye, Auntie." Ju Chimeng grabbed her bag of vegetables and hurried back toward the Shu house, playing the part of the devoted future daughter-in-law to perfection. As she rounded the corner, she saw the woman she'd just spoken to whispering to a group. The expression on her face said it all. She was telling them about Ju Chimeng and the Shu family. Ju Chimeng smiled to herself that if the Shu parents wouldn't bring up the wedding, she'd make other people do it for them. Let's see how they handle the embarrassment. She stopped by a trash can and dumped the vegetables inside. Quantum Node Network Tech Company. The first session of onboarding training was over, but Shangfu Muse still hadn't shown up. Yun Shu texted him. No reply. Between sessions, Mu Yun swiveled around in her seat. "Master, is that annoying guy off today?" Yun Shu shook her head. "Don't know. He didn't say. I bet he stayed up working on the servers last night and couldn't drag himself out of bed." Mu Yun sounded certain. "Good thing he's not here. I get you all to myself for lunch. I'm eating alone, neither of you." Yun Shu's voice was flat. Yesterday's lunch had been a disaster. Those two had fought each other to serve her food and ended up snatching the ladle right out of the cafeteria lady's hand. The image of them running with the lady chasing after them still gave Yunshu a headache. The bell rang. Second session started. Halfway through, Yunshu's phone buzzed with multiple messages in a row. She slid it open under the desk. A few seconds later, she stood up. "Excuse me, I need to leave. Urgent matter." It was a design review session, nothing critical. And since Yunshu was now top of the department in every project, the manager just waved her off. Yun saw the look on her face, something big. She faked a stomachache and slipped out too. She ran to the parking lot just as Yunshu was starting the car. "Master, is it about that annoying guy? Take me with you." No time to argue. Yunshu unlocked the doors. "Get in." She floored it, following the address Shangfu Muse had sent. 20 minutes later, they pulled up at a tea house. "Master, he skipped work to drink tea here?" Mu Yun's imagination kicked into overdrive. Wait, was he kidnapped? But who'd kidnap someone for tea? Yunshu tossed her the keys. "Stay in the car. If things go south, drive away, got it?" "But master, I want to." "Not listening. Then don't call me master." One cold look from Yunshu, and Mu Yun surrendered. Fine, I'll listen. Don't be mad." She climbed into the driver's seat. Yunshu waited until the doors locked, then turned and walked into the tea house. On the second floor, in a private room, Shangfu Muse stared nervously at the man across from him. He'd barely stepped out of his house this morning when two guys grabbed him and brought him here. The man had immediately proposed a partnership for the tech company, but Shangfu Muse and Yunshu had never planned to work with anyone else. He turned it down at first, but the man kept talking, and the terms he offered were generous, so Shangfu Muse said he had a business partner and needed to discuss it with her. The man told him to just call her over and talk together. Shangfu Muse had considered running, but one look at the muscle-bound guys outside the door, and the man sitting there radiating pressure without even trying, made him think better of it. He couldn't take any of them, so he'd texted Yunshu the address, not bothering to explain since he couldn't type that much. He just spammed urgent and hoped she'd come fast. Whether they took the deal or not, at least he could leave. Yunshu entered the tea house and climbed to the second floor. She spotted a private room with two men standing guard outside, one on each side of the door. The way they stood told her everything. "Stop right there." She'd only taken 2 steps when one of them spotted her and blocked her path. "The person in that room called for me." Yunshu glanced at the door, her voice icy. The man's tone softened slightly. "Wait here." He stepped inside to checkpoint. 10 seconds later, the door flew open. Shangfu Muse burst out like a whirlwind. "Master, you're here." Yunshu just stared at him. "Master, you finally came." His voice carried a hint of wounded pride. "The man inside wants to negotiate a partnership. He wouldn't let me leave unless I brought you. Li Jun had never met anyone that pushy about a deal. And this was your emergency." Yunshu honestly wanted to crack his skull open and see what went on in there. Of course it's an emergency. That guy inside is no joke. I wanted to run, but I can't take any of these guys in a fight. Yunshu just stared at him. Please." The man who'd gone in earlier came back out, his tone overly polite. Yunshu acknowledged. then looked at Li Jun. You coming in with me or? Li Jun shook his head frantically. No, I'm not going in, you handle it. The guy inside was good looking, sure, but his face was stone cold serious, and his presence was way too intense that it gave Li Jun the creeps. Mu Yun is in the car downstairs. You can wait with her, Yun Shu said, then stepped into the private room. Hearing that Mu Yun was downstairs, Li Jun decided to wait right there. If Yun Shu didn't come out soon, he'd die of anxiety. Inside the private room, Yun Shu studied the silhouette behind the folding screen. Something about it felt familiar. She stepped around the screen. Well, an old acquaintance indeed. Out in the hallway, Li Jun started off standing by the staircase, but slowly, he began inching toward the private room door step by step. He figured they couldn't be saying anything too sensitive. If his master needed backup, he'd hear it first and run downstairs for help. The moment he got close to the two guards, one of them suddenly spoke. Hey, if you want to wait over here, just walk over. Sneaking up like that, our first instinct is to label you a threat that could get you hurt. Oh. Li Jun hunched his shoulders and walked straight to the door as told. Nearly half an hour went by. Yun Shu still hadn't come out, and Li Jun was getting restless. Hey, that man inside, is he your boss? No, the guard who'd spoken earlier answered. Then what is he to you? Sorry. Can't say. Li Jun nodded, pretending to understand, but his mind was already spinning. Can't say. So he must be some high-ranking official. But why would a high-ranking official want to partner with them? If this guy tried to cross any lines, his master definitely wouldn't go for it. Would things turn ugly? Before he could figure it out, the door swung open. The man with the intense aura stood in the doorway and called out, Li Jun, please come in. He was smiling now, completely different from that ice-cold face earlier. Oh, right. Li Jun hurried inside. He moved fast, afraid something had happened to Yun Shu, but once he rounded the screen, he saw Yun Shu sitting back, leisurely sipping tea. The moment she set her cup down, the man immediately refilled it. Sister-in-law, this tea is excellent. I'll have some sent to your home another day. No need. I only drink it once in a while, Yun Shu said dismissively. Li Jun watched their exchange, the ease of it, and his mouth fell open. Yun Shu stood and gestured to Li Jun. This is Colonel Sun Huaishan, Army Special Forces. Pleased to meet you, Colonel Sunday. Li Jun flinched again, and no wonder the guy's aura was so intense. He was a colonel in China's elite Special Forces unit. Sister-in-law, this classmate of yours has some talent, Sun Huaishan said with a smile. And since he's your apprentice, his aptitude can't be half bad either. Have a seat, Li Jun. Oh, sure. Li Jun took a seat, and Sun Huaishan poured him a cup of tea. After a few pleasantries, the three of them dove into the partnership details. Mostly, Sun Huaishan talked while Yun Shu nodded or shook her head, making the decisions. Li Jun spent the whole time refilling their teacups. 2 hours later, they finally ironed out all the details. Sister-in-law, I'll drive you back, Sun Huaishan offered, rising. Yun Shu waved him off. No need. I drove. All right. I'll leave the platform matters in your hands, then. No problem, Yun Shu said, heading for the door with Li Jun's son Huaishan escorted them downstairs, and they said goodbye walking to the parking lot. Li Jun finally burst out with all the questions he'd been holding in. Master, why does Colonel's son call you sister-in-law? God, it blew his mind hearing someone as important as son Huaishan call a college student sister-in-law. He's a year younger than Fu Huaishan, Yunshu said simply. Oh, so he's a close friend of Mr. Fu's. For Fu Huaishan, having a friend like Colonel's son wasn't surprising at all. But why did you charge him so much back there? Yunshu glanced at him, tone flat. Even brothers settle accounts clearly, and he's the one asking us to partner with him, not the other way around, got it? Got it, master. You're a legend for a reason. I'm with you for life. Nothing's changing that. They reached the car still talking. Mu Yun was sprawled across the back seat, dead asleep. Li Jun had assumed she'd followed because she was worried about him. Yet here she was, asleep. He couldn't decide if she was incredibly chill or just heartless. Yunshu tapped on the window. No response. Tapped again. Still nothing. Let me, master. Li Jun ran around to the front and banged on the hood. Wham, wham, wham. Mu Yun jolted awake seeing them. She scrambled to open the door. Master, how'd it go? No fighting, right? Fighting, even if they'd killed each other, Miss Mu here would've slept through it. You were out that cold. If someone hauled your car off, you'd have no clue. Li Jun, I was worried about you. Why do you always have to pick a fight with me? Mu Yun planted her hands on her hips, ready to brawl. Phut, some worry you fell asleep. Real concerned. Li Jun made a face at her. Li Jun, if I don't beat you to death today, I'm taking your last name. She rolled up her sleeves and lunged. She had martial arts training. Li Jun couldn't beat her, so he ran. They circled the parking lot over and over. By the time they called a truce and came back, the car was long gone. Back at the military office, Sun Huaishan called in Shu Shaonan right away. From now on, you'll be the primary point of contact for the platform, Sun Huaishan said firmly. Shu Shaonan's face lit up. Colonel, you got them on board? Yes, remember, whatever they ask for, you provide it fully, and if you can't, you find every possible way to make it happen. Colonel, that's a pretty low bar for a partnership. A voice came through, dead serious. No limits. No limits, he barely bit the question back. Whatever. He'd follow orders, but what kind of business partner was this? The young master always drew a line somewhere. Now he was saying there were none. One day, he'd have to meet this mystery man face to face. Shen Corporation. Shenixuan sat behind his desk, a lit cigarette balanced between his fingers. A knock, and a bodyguard in black stepped inside. Boss, all the funds have cleared. The bodyguard handed over a report. Shenixuan took it, his expression unreadable as he scanned the staggering figures. Make sure everything's airtight. Move all group business out of the country as soon as possible. Yes, sir. And boss, Dr. Leon arrives tomorrow night. A faint, unreadable smile flickered across Shenixuan's usually impassive face. Tomorrow, I'll pick him up myself. Understood, boss. The bodyguard nodded and walked out. Shenixuan lifted the cigarette, took a long drag, and let the curling smoke swallow him whole royal garden estate. After dinner, Fu Huaishan headed to his study to deal with an urgent work matter. Yunshu went to the stables and brought Xiaobai out. She didn't bother with a halter. Just let him wander. She walked slowly across the grass. Xiaobai trailed her for a while, then veered off to play on his own. When she stopped at a quiet spot and sat down, Xiaobai trotted back and settled beside her. Her fingers stroked the white horse's mane, and Xiaobai blinked, eyes half closed in pure contentment. Most people liked petting cats or dogs. Yunshu preferred horses. It was an autumn evening, cool breezes, none of summer's stickiness or winter's bite. The garden this time of year was thick with floral fragrance, every corner bursting with blooms. She looked at Xiaobai and murmured, "Xiaobai, I died in an explosion and got transmigrated here. What about you? How did you end up here?" Xiaobai, of course, didn't answer. He just soaked up her slow, soothing strokes. Seeing that happy expression, a faint smile tugged at the corner of Yunshu's lips. Whatever it didn't matter to as long as Xiaobai stayed right beside her. After the walk, she returned Xiaobai to the stables. Heading back toward the main house, she ran into Li Jun coming out, phone pressed to his ear, discussing travel arrangements to Europe. She stepped inside. Fu Huaishan spotted her the moment she entered the living room and immediately reached out his hand. "You're back." He pulled her close. "I'm heading to Europe. So I heard. You're going?" He nodded. "But I was hoping you'd come with me. Think my wife might grant this humble wish of mine." School was on break next week, so she had no classes. She considered it for a second, then nodded. "Okay. I'll go with you." The moment she said it, Fu Huaishan dipped his head and kissed her without a shred of restraint. These days, he couldn't stand being away from her for even a second. Since they'd gotten together, the man hadn't attended a single business banquet. His get-togethers with friends went from once or twice a week to zero. He finished work early and came straight home or brought the work with him, just so he could sit by her side while she did her own assignments. This Europe trip was already compressed to the bone. But 3 days was the hard minimum. 3 days without her felt like 3 years. It made him restless. So when Yunshu actually agreed to come, the young master was practically glowing. Early the next morning. Fu Huaishan brought Yunshu aboard his private jet, bound for Europe. After nearly 12 hours in the air, they touched down in country at his villa. The man changed clothes and immediately headed out. Yunshu took a nap. When she opened her eyes again, Fu Huaishan was just stepping out of the bathroom. "Did I wake you?" He tossed aside the towel and walked straight toward her. "No, I just woke up naturally." "Want to rest a little more?" she asked. This man had gone straight into work the second they landed. On the plane, he hadn't stopped for a moment, keeping her company 1 minute, signing documents the next. She dozed off twice, but he hadn't slept at all. Fu Huaishan shook his head. "No need. I already handled 1 item from the itinerary while I was out, so the rest of today, it's just you and me. We're going out. I'm taking you to have some fun." "Okay." Yunshu got up to freshen up. When she came out, she didn't see him right away, but his voice carried from the walk-in closet. "Honey, you done? What is it?" She headed over. The second she rounded the corner, whatever she'd been about to say evaporated. Warm light from the recessed fixtures spilled across the dark walnut cabinetry. He stood there in grey casual pants, low-waisted, hanging loose at his hips. The soft folds of the fabric barely covered him. His upper body was bare, and on his wheat-colored skin, a sharply defined 8-pack carved across his torso. His hair was still slightly damp. One hand braced against the wardrobe door, the other resting casually on his hip. When he shifted his weight, the muscles in his back moved beneath the skin. The light cast fine shadows across his ribcage, and a few water droplets still clung to the hollow of his collarbone. The man was absolutely, unfairly gorgeous. "Honey, what color are you wearing? I'll match the palette." He turned as he spoke. "Ah." Yunshu cleared her throat and pointed at random. "I'm wearing the white set." "Good. I'll wear white too." He pulled out a white top and paired it with black pants. They changed and headed out. Fu Huaishan's villa was near the city center, so they decided to walk. The whole way, the man kept a firm grip on Yunshu's hand, like he was terrified she'd get lost. Strolling those foreign streets, they soaked up the rare, unhurried moment. The autumn sun settled gently over them, warm and light. A street performer on the roadside sang a melody so captivating it pulled a small crowd of passers-by. Yunshu stopped. Fu Huaishan stopped right beside her. After a moment, Fu Huaishan took some bills from Li Jun and placed them in the box in front of the singer. When the song ended, they turned to leave. And that's when a little girl, golden hair, bright blue eyes, came running straight toward them. A few bright flowers rested in her little hands. "Pretty sister," she said, her Chinese halting. "Want to buy flowers?" Yunshu looked at the little girl's adorable face, about to ask the price, but Fu Huaishan had already paid. The girl's face lit up at the sight of the money. She handed him all the flowers, then skipped away. His big hand held the bouquet out to her. "For my beautiful wife." A soft blush crept across Yunshu's cheeks. She took the flowers and brought them close, inhaling the faint fragrance. "Thank you, husband." Every time she said husband, the corner of Fu Huaishan's mouth curled up before he could stop himself. They walked hand in hand and soon came across a cozy coffee shop. They stepped inside. The decor was simple but elegant, the rich aroma of coffee filling the air. They found a seat by the window, where they could watch the street and the people passing by. Fu Huaishan ordered 2 coffees and some pastries. The server brought them right away. They sipped their coffee, nibbled on the pastries, and took in the street view through the glass. Occasionally they'd catch each other's eyes and smile, the sweet atmosphere warm and soft like autumn sunlight. By the time they finished their coffee, it was only around 2 in the afternoon. "There's an art exhibition up ahead. Want to check it out?" Fu Huaishan said. "Sure." She had no fixed plans anyway. Wandering around and seeing things sounded good. The exhibition was about 200 meters down the street from the coffee shop, right on the way to the city center. It was held in a place that looked like a museum, spacious, with plenty of paintings on display, mostly European abstract pieces. Yunshu and Fu Huaishan strolled slowly, stopping now and then to exchange a few words about the more striking works. "Mr. Fu, I didn't expect to meet you here." A blond man approached, speaking flawless English. Long time no see, Owen. Fu Huaishan returned the greeting. They exchanged pleasantries, but the man kept glancing at Yun Shu, a flicker of interest in his eyes. Owen, if you keep staring at my wife like that, you'll lose your eyes. Fu Huaishan's voice turned icy, a clear warning in his gaze. Sorry. The man apologized repeatedly. Fu Huaishan, you talk with your friend. I'm going to look around. Yun Shu nodded toward the paintings ahead. He nodded. Sure. I'll find you in a bit. Okay. She walked forward, a bodyguard trailing not far behind. Yun Shu stopped in front of an entire wall covered with paintings of the sky, like an endless stretch of blue laid out before her. Her eyes were drawn to the deep shades of azure. She could almost feel the vastness, the infinite openness of the sky. She studied each painting carefully, a swell of emotion rising in her chest. The abstract depictions of the sky were different from the straightforward landscapes she was used to seeing back home. But they conveyed a unique mood. The bold brushstrokes and layered colors captured the ever-changing, mysterious nature of the sky, pulling her in. When she reached the last painting on the wall, she stopped abruptly, as if frozen by some invisible force. The image was simple: blue sky, white clouds, and a lush green forest painted below, and yet, this seemingly ordinary painting made her pause. Her eyes swept over the canvas, and suddenly a strange feeling hit her, like she had missed something important. Without thinking, she stepped closer, wanting a better look. As she leaned in, she finally noticed the detail she had overlooked. Hidden among the clouds was a tiny airplane. It was so small. The whole painting was about 30 inches square, and the plane was barely 2 inches across. If she hadn't come so close, she never would have seen it. Why would the artist make the plane so small? As Yun Shu tried to reason it out, a thick white fog flooded her mind, blanking out all her thoughts. Her eyes locked onto the painting in front of her, but her mind raced out of control. In an instant, she was transported back to that mission day. She had completed her task and was flying back to base, but just as she crossed above the forest before the base, the plane exploded without warning. Everything spun, her vision went black. When she opened her eyes again, she was surrounded by flames. The wreckage of the plane lay scattered everywhere. The fire licked at her body, wave after wave of searing pain. And the scene before her now, it was exactly like the one in the painting: blue sky, white clouds, forest, plane. It all came back like a replay. A deafening roar filled her ears, the echo of that day's explosion. Yun Shu's body jolted. In an instant, her back was drenched in cold sweat, and her face went deathly pale. She was standing, but her thoughts were no longer her own. Some invisible force was pulling the strings. She tried to move, but her legs felt nailed to the ground. Yun Shu, Fu Huaishan's voice came from behind her, and his hand wrapped around her shoulder, pulling her out of the haze. You like this one? His low voice spoke near her ear, and the coolness of his palm slowly warmed against her skin. Oh, no, just looking, she answered quickly. He pointed toward the hall on the left. There are more over there. Let's go see. Okay. Fu Huaishan took her hand and led her left. Before she turned away, Yun Shu looked back at the painting one last time, but this time, nothing strange happened. Probably just overthinking it, she told herself silently.